All right, thank you, everyone. Just by way of hopefully setting expectations here, this is the first Planning Commission meeting I'll be running. So first, I want to do a call to order, and then turn to my good commissioner here. Commissioner Glenn, if you would like to do roll call.
Roll call for DRC, Glenn Cass, present.
John Gray, present. Travis Cowser, present.
Richard Stanton, present.
All right, hopefully it'll be sufficient. Roll call for the Planning Commission. Commissioner Deming, present.
Commissioner Radich, present.
DeGiorgio.
Mason, present.
Sturm, present.
All right, by the way, we have a quorum. First, I'd like to move for adoption of the agenda item.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Nay. All right, seeing none, agenda passes. So for the, all right, so the first item is going to be public comments for any items not on the agenda. And just as a reminder, this is if you want to speak something on our agenda that we're going to be coming up, that'll come later. If there's anything else, if we received any speaking slips or anything online. Seeing none, moving on next to the consent calendar. First, I suppose a motion to approve the meeting minutes from our prior meeting on April 21st.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Oh, even easier.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Hearing none, motion passes. Moving on now to the study session, which will be a presentation. Sorry, for agenda item 6A, the supportive housing, I believe it was study session to construct a roughly 50,000 square foot mixed-use residential building, including 48 affordable housing units with a proposed max height, et cetera, et cetera. And I believe staff has a presentation on this.
Yes, that's correct. If I could get the PowerPoint. Yes. Yes, perfect. Thank you. Good evening, commissioners, members of the public. My name is Stephanie Cervantes, senior planner with the planning department, and I will be presenting a study session tonight for Satellite Affordable Housing Associates, also known as SAHA. So the project site is 949 Moraga. The area is approximately 0.74 acres, and the zoning is MRO. The property site is on Moraga Road, just south of Sound of Mount Diablo Boulevard. So tonight we're looking at the proposed 100% affordable housing project. This is the site plan that's currently proposed, which shows one way in, one way out parking with tandem parking on the right side of the screen. And it also shows the first floor area that I will go into a little bit more detail in a second. And it shows the outdoor space. There's a center courtyard that will be at the center with many of the units looking in, as well as an exterior multi-purpose space to the top left corner of the site. There will also be improvements to landscaping. You can see along the northern property line there that will have trees and bushes and other landscaping features. So again, this is the first floor plan, which includes a lobby that will be accessible from Moraga. It includes office space for the employees of the organization, as well as a bike room for that will have bike storage, a multi-purpose room, a teaching kitchen, and a fitness area. And this will also have access to the exterior open space in the back, the outdoor multi-space area. The second floor, the floor plans for the second to fourth floor are very similar. They include residential units that will consist of 1 and 2 bedrooms. The second floor, the main difference is at the center, you'll see on this floor plan, there is what's shown as a community room. And so that is different on the different floor plans. The third floor, that area is shown as a laundry lounge. And on the fourth floor, that is shown as a caregiver break room. Here are the elevations. This is the front east side that you will see from Moraga. You can see here the different architectural features that are used, the metal panels in that darker brown color, as well as some of the lighter colors in the stucco towards the rear. This is the west elevation where you see more of that, the difference in the stucco and the cement and composite panels and the different colors being used to create vertical articulation. The south elevation, very similar as well, using the changes between the darker and the lighter colors to create articulation. And then this is the north elevation as well, very similar to the other 3 elevations. And here is one of the renderings that was shown on your plan. That this will be the view from Moraga Way. As you can see here, you can see the lobby entrance surrounded by glass with the units above. And you can see that courtyard area there in the center, as well as the vehicle exit. There will also be a loading area in that right prior to the exit. So we did receive one comment as of noon today for this project site, which was emailed to the commissioners earlier in the day and was also published with the agenda packet. So at this time, we're asking the commissions to provide direction on the overall site design, building, siting, and circulation, as well as provide direction on the project's, on the proposed project's architecture, massing, and scale, and whether it is consistent with other multifamily projects in the downtown area. We are also asking if there's any additional comments from the PC or the DRC that you would like to pass on to the applicant. Again, this is a study session. The commissions tonight will be reviewing the proposal and providing feedback to the applicant. There is no formal action being taken tonight.
Thank you very much. So I guess kind of opening up, does any of the commissioners on either side have any questions they would like to ask, clarifications, input on massing, et cetera, I don't know if you want to bring that slide back up that had the sort of things you were seeking, but any comments? Sorry, just questions. To my right?
I have a question regarding elevators. With a building of this size, I think the number of units, 48 units, is there any legal requirements as to the number of elevators that are required?
Thank you for the question. I'm not sure. That would be more of a building code question, and I'm not sure of the details to be able to respond to that.
Question, will there be a accompanied traffic study? Because taking a left out of there in the mornings with rush hour traffic and school can be kind of difficult.
Thank you. At this time, staff has not discussed the traffic study with the applicant. Our understanding of the project thus far is that because it is 100% affordable, that will be used for individuals with intellectual and development disabilities, that the parking needs will be lowered. But we have not received any technical information from the applicant to demonstrate that. It's very likely that when a formal application is submitted, staff will go through the process of ensuring that if there's a VMT exemption or something like that, that will be considered first before we ask for a traffic impact analysis.
Thank you. And then the second question is, were you going to leave the sidewalks as they are, or were you going to widen them? Because they're fairly tight there, and if you put a little, parking meters there, then it gets, really gets tight for the, any handicapped.
That's a level of detail that has not been discussed yet. That will be determined by the engineering department when the formal application is submitted.
Thank you.
Is the parking, is it for employees or for tenants?
Yes. The primary use of the parking will be for employees. So as you probably saw on the site plan, there's tandem parking that is proposed.
That's my question.
We were informed that tandem parking has been used at other similar locations that works very well for office employees. Very unlikely that the residents themselves will have vehicles that will need to be parked.
But there'll be guest parking?
Yes, there will be guest parking.
And sorry, just clarifying I guess the steps forward. So study session here, they've kind of given us a little initial proposal. What's like the next step to kind of come after this one? I guess definitely on the traffic study, I know would be a major point, but what's the process forward look like?
Yes, so if the applicant decides to move forward with the application, they would then submit a formal application to the planning department that will be reviewed. As was mentioned in the staff report, the use is a use permitted by right in the zoning designation. The applicant has indicated that there are state laws, including the assembly bill that was mentioned in the staff report, that would allow this project to be reviewed ministerially. So that's currently the process that staff is assuming will occur unless there's any major changes to the project. So very likely the project will come in as a building permit.
Okay, all right, thank you. Sorry, Commissioner.
Could you let us know what the uses are of the parcels that border this?
Yes, to the north, there is a religious assembly, and I believe there's also a preschool on site associated with that religious use. To the west, there is residential uses. To the south, there is an office building, and then to the east across the street is Lafayette Elementary School.
And the residential on the west side is all single family?
No, that is apartment buildings.
Has staff evaluated or looked at any privacy issues between the possible new development and those residential units?
Not in great detail because it's still conceptual at this point, but because of the slope, the proposed project is proposed to be incorporated into that slope area. So those apartment buildings to the west are slightly higher than the elevation that you see from Moraga. So if you're driving by the site or you go to the site, the parking area that's currently used is relatively flat, but then there is kind of a steep hill that goes deeper into the site.
Thank you.
I forgot to ask, is the applicant here to answer questions tonight?
They are,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
Okay, no more questions from the panel. I would like to open this up now for public comment. Oh, there, okay, I'm so sorry. Thank you so much. Would the applicant like to present? Someone asked, I thought he said they weren't here.
Bring it a little closer. Hi, good evening, members of Design Review, Planning Commission, and city staff. So my name is Rosemary Kerbach. I have worked with Sunflower Hill for 13 years as legal counsel. I'm former legal counsel. I'm currently a board member and chair of the Land Committee. I'm also a 30-year resident of Lafayette and the parent of a 28-year-old son with autism. So I'd also like to introduce Kathy Lehman, who is my partner on the project. She's been working with us, our entire team from the get-go, and our founder, Susan Houghton, right there. Our entire team is really excited to meet with you all tonight and visit with you and share what are preliminary plans for the 949 Moraga Road site. We think it's an incredible opportunity for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities to have a permanent supportive housing home there. So close to the amenities, Las Trampas, I couldn't have picked a more perfect site. So anytime you have an affordable housing rental project, it's a 55-year deed restricted. So we view ourselves as true partners with the city. We want your feedback, your suggestions, your ideas. We've already heard some questions. We welcome more. We want this to be an open dialogue. We value your input. I wanted to give you a little bit of background on Sunflower Hill. It was founded in 2012. I've already introduced you to our founder, with really the goal to create safe and affordable housing for the IDD population. But it's so much more than just a roof over a head or a place to sleep. We provide robust activities, vocational opportunities, health and wellness. There's services on site. So for those that aren't familiar with our model, we say, look to senior living. Think of that, where there's so many things you can do on site, but you're free to come and go. Any activity's optional. You can participate in as much or as little as you like. You can go out in the community and the community can come in. So that's been kind of our way of explaining it. So Irby Ranch opened in September of 2020. It's 31 units, a combination of 1 and 2 bedrooms. Our affordable nonprofit housing developer partner on that project is SAHA, Satellite Affordable Housing Associates. They're based out of Berkeley. They are very highly regarded, successful, and work with a lot of integrity. And we are thrilled that they've agreed to partner with Sunflower Hill on the 949 project as well. I know Jonathan Astman, he's the Associate Director of Real Estate at SAHA. He is available via Zoom to answer any questions. And I will say Irby Ranch, looking back, has just been wildly successful. When applications were due in the spring of 2020, it was the pandemic. We closed our wait list at 250 applicants, and we've never opened it. There's not a wait list to even get on the wait list. You can't get on the wait list since the project opened. Since it opened in September of 2020, 3 residents have moved out, mostly because of family relocations to other geographic areas. So that really, shows the need, the demand, the desire, and a proven track record with a successful project. So, and I will say that our experience and our numbers are in line with the state. I checked through DDS, the State Department, and as of last month, there were 527,000 approximately a little bit over that, regional center consumers in the state of California, and that's more than double the number of unhoused in the state of California. So the need is large. I was going to just show a few slides to just kind of show why a Sunflower Hill in Lafayette is so desired here and kind of building on that sense of community. So Stephanie, could you please show number 2? Okay, so here you can see, and these are obviously at Irby Ranch, but and that's actually my son, full disclosure, at the cooking class. So, there's Patrick working with a Sunflower Hill staff member, and there's obviously many other participants in the cooking class as well. And then you can see just the sense of friendship and excitement. Here is a picture before the residents and their friends, they invited their friends to a Halloween party. Could we do next? So here we have an arts and crafts class that was taught in our community, or conducted in our community room. Actually, Kathy co-taught that class, and arts and crafts is a really popular thing at Irby Ranch. And then on the right, you can see an adaptive fitness class that takes place in the fitness room on site. And then could you do the final slide, please? And then here is just our May activity calendar. So you can see it's just a wide range. Today, I think there was like a banking class or managing money. Twice a week we have adaptive fitness, we have adaptive yoga, and we really reach out to the residents. So to drive programming congruent with their desires, interests, and needs. Before we get to Paul, I know Lafayette is a community of character. My son was diagnosed 25 years ago when he was 3, and sadly, I know several families that have left Lafayette, not because they wanted to, but because they couldn't find a placement for their now adult loved child, except for going out of state or hundreds of miles away. Southern California was a big draw, Arizona, Chicago area with Misericordia. So I applaud the city leadership, Nirup, Greg, Stephanie, and for City Council for doing all that they have done to date to make this dream for our population a reality. And before I turn it over, I would also just really like to thank Brian Griggs. He is a obviously well-known and respected developer, but on a pro bono basis, he has been working with us as a consultant. This is Sunflower Hills' first surplus land project and first project through this streamlined. And so he has just been invaluable, and we're really grateful for his guidance, as we are with Saha, the city, and everybody. So thank you. I will be available for later for any questions after Paul presents. Oh, was Brian going to? Oh,
Are we, we're asking more about.
Paul, why don't you go ahead, and I'll do mine during public comment.
Okay. Yeah, so, more time on that?
Here you go, Paul.
Okay. Hello, Commissioners, Design Review Committee, thanks for having me today. I'm Paul Farrow with Ascend Architecture, and I'm gonna try to run through this quick because I know we don't have a lot of time here, but I'm gonna just jump into the site context aspect of this project. As was mentioned earlier, we're in a very mixed-use, eclectic zone here where we've got surrounded by an office building, schools, homes and apartments on one side, very eclectic mix of architecture as well. So anyway, we're sort of dealing with that context, and we wanted to sort of introduce, a higher density supportive housing project that didn't compromise the character of the neighborhood and actually contributed to the neighborhood as well. So that was where we're at. I'm gonna jump past those other 2 items because we're kind of short on time. If you can go to the next one. Just sort of get right into the project. This is just the stats on it. We're obviously going to be trying to invoke state density bonus law in order to get the kind of density that the client was looking for. Getting the 48 units sort of required a lot of the waivers that we'll need for FAR, setbacks, parking, et cetera. And let's go to the next. I'll get into the site. So when we were getting into the site design, we looked at many schemes, and some of the items that are listed here were sort of the priorities or the goals for what we were trying to achieve. And so parking, one, wanted to be near the street. The lobby itself wanted to be near the street as well for visibility and easy access. Drop-off was a very important part of the project. So you can see as you come into the parking lot, you drive down to the end towards the lobby, you have a drop-off zone there, and the residents of this community, I don't think any of them really drive, so they rely heavily on a shuttle service that takes them to various services. and to get around the community. So that was an important part that's right off the lobby. And so the lobby is flanked by various seating areas to support them when they're waiting for the drop-offs to come. And then so the community also uses bikes a lot, so we had to make sure the bike racks and or bike storage was near the entry as well. So that's kind of in the middle of the building right there. And then just from the pragmatic side of things, the trash room needed to be near the entry, near the street or near the driveway, so it was easy to get to, but also tucked away and hidden so it wasn't seen on a daily basis. And then one of the important parts was to maximize the distance between the units and the street for a variety of reasons, one having to do with sound, comfort, safety. So we tried to push all the residential pieces to the rear of the property as much as we could. And then outdoor spaces were a huge component for the health and recreation of the residents. They really need to get out. And so we accommodated that by providing two main outdoor spaces, one that feeds off the multi-purpose room and fitness room in the lower left corner there, where there's a covered patio, there's a turf space, just to allow for all sorts of kind of activities. And then we also created a secondary outdoor space. It's kind of in a courtyard off the second floor, off the Flex community room. So that feeds out to that, and that's a sort of elevated, safe, secure space as well. That's a little bit more intimate, but provides a variety of outdoor spaces for them to enjoy. And then there's the other site component, which was mentioned, that there's a bit of a hill on the site. And so we wanted to minimize the cut and fill as much as possible. So we tiered the building in such a way that the ground floor, the ground floor is all sort of below the hill, and then the second floor sort of gets on top of the hill, so that we sort of, again, minimize the cut and fill from a site point of view. And then now let's go to the next. Just getting to the floor plans for a second, the entire first floor is reserved for resident services and admin and support, which then leaves all the upper floors for the actual residential units. So at the beginning, we have the lobby, obviously, then it feeds off to the offices, which support the facility. And then just going down the space to the back of the property that leads to the outdoor patio, we've got the various amenity spaces, the multi-purpose room, fitness room, a training kitchen, which actually feeds to an outside too, where they can grow their own vegetables and fruit. So, and then sort of back of house, kind of buried up to the back of the hillside is more the back of house maintenance rooms, utility rooms, restrooms. And then if we go to the second floor above, like was mentioned, the floor plans are very similar. There's just the variety within the core, which is the different amenities. So on this one, it's the flex space for the actual residents. It's like almost like a secondary community room that feeds to the outdoor courtyard there. And then if we go to the next page, we've got now a laundry lounge. So everybody in the facility uses the laundry lounge. They come together there as well. It's another opportunity for people to come together in a community way as well. And then the top floor, we've got the caregiver break room. Caregivers are a very important part of the facility, where they've actually got caregiver nooks, which are on each floor, that are those yellow smaller spaces at the left and top. And then on the fourth floor, because we'll get into more of the exterior, we definitely tried to step back at that level. We understand that the neighborhood is mostly a two-story type of massing, and we understand that we're dealing with a four-story structure here, so we did all we could to kind of step back at where we could do it. And then if we go to the next, just typical bedroom layouts. It's made up of 2s and 1s throughout the facility, and very simple, very easy and efficient. No balconies. This community really can't, for safety reasons, we don't provide outdoor space like that. It needs to be more supervised. And then we go to the next plan and sort of getting into the, yes, I know. She always gets me for calling it a facility. Sorry, it's community. Exterior design, so definitely try to vary building massing to break down the overall structure into smaller components as much as we could. We try to also make sure that there was sort of no volume that was greater than 3 stories, even when you have those little things marching down. They're 3-story elements above the base. And then again, as I mentioned earlier, on the street facade, we step back the 4th floor to relief it a little bit. And then go to the next one. Kind of getting into that more. We also curve the corners at the entry to sort of soften the architecture a bit and also try to distinguish the entry a little bit more from the rest of the building facades. We go to the next one. And then, the entry facade is basically broken down into a glass base, 2-story middle, and then step back 1 story. Again, just trying as best we could to break it down where we could and to sort of better fit into the community and not have this sort of massive 4-story wall up against it. And then the next one goes. Just, and then looking at the facade in general, try to playful facade with, window treatments and the use of materials, we're breaking it down. And then even within certain facades, we've got little bands of wood composite panels that are sort of breaking up even within an individual facade. Again, give it a little playful quality to it. The windows kind of vary a bit. And then we'll go to the next. As we move into the lobby, we have the entry canopy that sort of calls attention to the entry. It also supports the idea of protection from the sun and rain while people are waiting for the drop-off, which was another important thing. And then we'll go to the next just for a close-up view. Yeah, here we go. So, with the benches on either side for people to wait, easy access to the bike room beyond. And then sort of the open glazed lobby, trying to get that seamless transition between the interior and exterior and allowing natural light to get in as much as possible. And then go on to the next. And then we've got this open stair at the back, which kind of feeds off the courtyard there. Again, we were trying to widen that courtyard as much as possible, so we decided to go with an open stair and hallway that leads to those last couple of units. So you get the access and the sort of widening of that courtyard as a result of that. And let's see the last one. Just to look at the materials, try to use warm natural materials as much as possible. Provide a variety of materials to again further break down the massing as much as possible. And I think that's it. Thank you. Yeah. I don't know. I was trying to do it fast.
All right, does anyone on other commissions have any questions for the applicant?
Just real quick question I remember you stated that the building was 48 feet tall and Lafayette defines height differently than the CBC. Is that 48 feet by Lafayette standards or 48 feet?
Yeah, it's basically from the bottom to the very top. It's like the tallest portion, yeah.
What I wanted to know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What is the framing on the exterior? Is there any veil or anything recessed on those windows or they're
Maybe we can scoot around to maybe one page back. So you're talking about the windows, the way they're treated?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they mostly, they're sticking into a stucco facade mostly. Right now, there's not a deep recess. They're probably likely to be nail fin windows.
So that's what I was asking. Is it 2x6 or 2x4?
Oh, the walls? Oh, they'll be 2x6s for sure, yeah. So, yeah. We have to look, we might even look at a rain screen solution, which will probably even give it a little bit more depth, but we have to search that out for cost reasons. So.
The artificial turf, what exactly are you doing on the artificial turf? Did you need artificial turf versus another surface?
Well, I think it's to support, people want to get out there, throw frisbees, hang out on a grass area instead of on a hardscape. Just a variety of things, cornhole, various things that they can do like that. So,
Some
Yeah.
outdoor fitness will.
yeah, outdoor fitness.
The fitness sometimes spills over into the courtyard area. Is your question, do you prefer grass over the turf? Is that what you're?
I prefer anything.
Duly noted.
Yeah, grass would be number one, but even the EG or something like that,
Mm.
they could be on that.
Yeah.
And low latency.
Right.
Will pets be allowed?
Yes, at Irby, there are pets and certainly always service animals, but yes, there are pets. One or two residents have dogs, and I know one resident has a cat, so yes.
Okay, so what I'm, I guess, getting at is hopefully there's a separation of the pet relief area versus the turf for the exercise or something like that.
That is something we will definitely explore with the landscape architect.
Perfect.
So we've been primarily focused on the interiors and exteriors, but that's a good comment, thank you. And I'm not exactly sure why this has turf, but we will look at it. Irby Ranch has grass, so we'll talk about that with our entire team, which includes architects, landscape architects, Saha, everybody. So Thank you.
Yeah, great. And then you'd mentioned a shuttle in your presentation. Is the shuttle something that's being provided by this community? Or is it a different shuttle that you're hoping shows up?
So actually, what it is the County Connection provides paratransit service. So it's called County Connection Link. So for example, at Irby Ranch, the paratransit van or small bus, think the size of like a small yellow special ed bus. So that would be the sizing, or a van that might pick up, 4 or 5 residents that are going to their day program, and then take them home afterwards. So it's the shuttle vehicle, kind of group, and certainly residents can take both the regular county connection as well as BART. But we suspect, like at Irby, many will take, paratransit. We know we have huge interest, and we'll be having some applicants, assuming the project, goes forward, from Las Trampas. And so, on a nice day, those that are able to can walk to Las Trampas, but others will take, and it's typically the paratransit is shared transportation. So the bus, I think, holds like up till 9, the van may hold 5 or 6.
Okay, thank you.
Realizing, nobody has a perfect looking glass, but for a 55-year commitment, can you talk about potentially the evolution of the needs for the public services? The rooms are going to be what they are. I was thinking, for example, maybe reaching out to the high schools, because I believe the seniors still have community service requirements, which would be great. I know my daughter went over to Rossmore and taught internet and, Facebook and all that to the senior citizens so they could communicate with their grandchildren. So do you feel you have enough public service areas to adapt over, the changes that we're going to foresee?
Absolutely. Like, we welcome, this is a community of volunteers in Lafayette. We see that from the youth level all the way up to, seniors volunteering. But in addition, at Irby Ranch, and what we anticipate here is all of the residents will be clients of the Regional Center of the East Bay. And the RCEB provides SLS, supportive living services. So that is anything up to 24/7 for a resident that needs more than 40 hours per month. The Regional Center also provides what's called ILS, Independent Living Services. And those are for residents who might just need up to 40 hours a month, who might need 10 hours per week, maybe somebody taking them to Costco or helping them, with their banking or something like that. So the residents come with, or once they're there, will get, the majority of the services on the supportive side come already through the Regional Center. Sunflower Hill then, and Saha Resident Services provides additional services as well, like what we talked about with fitness, yoga, arts and crafts, and the workers or the staff there also will help residents with like their EBT cards, or how to access the paratransit, or certain things like that, unique needs. So
Thank you.
yeah, thank you. That was a great question.
Are the residents adults sometimes, and they're like family members, or who are?
It's interesting. Well, first of all, Sunflower Hill is not involved with leasing. That is done by Saha, our partner, in conjunction with the Regional Center of the East Bay that verifies the disability. So all of our residents will be regional center consumers. We're not quite sure we anticipate most will be like Irby. I mean, at Irby, we have one resident that has a neurodivergent child right now, one out of the 31 apartments that I'm aware of. And the rest are, adults that generally, one moved in actually at 21, so he then went to a transition program, but the majority are over the age of 22. They're out of like the Del Valley transition program, in public schooling ends at 22. And the age range it's a wide age range. Our oldest resident just turned 80. So, and again, we view this as housing for life, which is why it's permanent supportive housing, so.
Then I have one more question. I can't recall, and this might be a question for staff. I thought that Sunflower Hill also had the Lafayette Lane project that we saw. Was that?
Yes. So that, we did have that project. That was an inclusionary project. Unfortunately, the market rate developer stopped payment on his loan. So there was a notice of default entered. My understanding is that was at one point rescinded. I will tell you, at last April, there was a notice that even the property was listed at one point in a sale. There was a server appointed, a receiver. So unfortunately, we were a victim of what happened with the market rate project. So here, we're not reliant on a market rate developer. That's actually probably, a good question for Brian. Was there anything you wanted to add on that situation? That's kind of more up your alley with a market rate developer and what happened with that particular project.
No, I think you'd answered it spot on. I mean, there was such support by the community for what was going to happen there that really was the catalyst for me to get back involved and figure out an alternative site. But I think Rosemary's done a great job. I'm going to save a few points for public comment that I'd like to share also, but that probably answers that question.
It was very unfortunate, as you know. So yeah, the market rate developer let the entitlements elapse. So then we lost site control. We couldn't apply for funding. I mean, it was heartbreaking for us. We had actually been awarded 13 project-based vouchers that the county had to pull back, which is devastating.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's a great question.
First, I applaud the project. I think what you guys are doing is very important. This is a subset of our community that's overlooked largely because they can't speak up for themselves half the time. Few comments, not criticisms. One thing that I'm curious about is ingress for fire and emergency services off of Moraga. That first inlet looks like a pretty tight turn for a big emergency vehicle. Just making sure you guys look at that and make sure that is in compliance and capable. I'm not in love with the open elevator or the open staircase. I think it's going to invite on such a busy street a very dirty environment. And I think you're going to want to, if at all possible, enclose it. If you don't want balconies for this subset, an open staircase is kind of same concept. And finally, I feel like you could get away with.
Sorry not to interrupt, but this is technically the questions sections for the applicant. I believe comments comes after. I'm so sorry.
Excuse me.
You absolutely
You're right.
will have time. We're just trying to.
Well, let me just knock it out because we're halfway there. Last thing is the center courtyard. I feel like you could annex the multi-purpose fitness area and push that over so you could push back your lobby so that then you could have more of a hidden facade, get more landscaping up front so that from Moraga, from the school, you don't see this towering, you know,
We will definitely look and explore those. Thank you.
apologies for the out of order.
Earlier, I asked the staff about an elevator, and it's not concerned so much about safety, but in terms of the circulation concept of, I don't know in Irby Ranch, how many of the residents are wheelchair-bound, if any, and I don't know. So that was the genesis of my question is, if the laundry room is on the second floor and the, you know, kind of almost at the back, you know, I was just concerned that you consider how it will be for residents to go to and from. That was the reason I was asking.
No, and that's a great thing. At Irby, I'm aware of 3 residents that either use, you know, motorized scooters and/or wheelchairs. So really good point, and you know, we'll certainly look more into that as we dive deeper into it. But remember though, we are looking for permanent housing as they age in place. So eventually, everybody or a large portion of residents may need some type of mobility devices, whether it's walkers or you know, what you need at 30 is going to be a lot different than what you need at 80, right? So it's a really good point, and we'll explore that. Thank you.
You mentioned the caregiver nooks. Is that meant to be a storage space, or what kind of space is that?
That's something that Susan and I were at a community meeting prior to Irby, and where we were just getting feedback from the community. We held a number of meetings, and the one thing that, you know, we continually heard from parents was, well, what about the caregivers? You know, my child might not need 24/7, but they will need a caregiver for, you know, maybe food prep or something like that. So the nooks really are designed for the caregivers. So for example, I'm gonna just use my son, but he doesn't need somebody watching him watch his Disney movie at night, right? So the nooks there's 2 per floor, that's what we have at Irby. So the thought is that the caregiver can go in the nook, they're still, you know, they could hear what's going down the hallway, 2 doors, they can be there. But it gives the resident a little bit more independence. So I look and back at Irby, and it's one of the best things that we did. They can also go and do some paperwork there. You know, there's a desk there. Some might go there that are on duty while a resident is sleeping, but then go periodically to check in on a resident, so.
It's sort of like an office break space?
Yes, there's a separate caregiver break room.
Right.
Where they have, you know, a refrigerator, a microwave, their own seating. Yeah, this I would say is more like a caregiver work area.
And are there no exterior windows? I'm not seeing.
For the caregiver nook? Yeah, there are. They're on the perimeter. I mean, the buildings are on the perimeter, the rooms. There would be, yeah. They might not be drawn in there right now, but
Yeah,
there are,
okay.
yeah.
That's why I was thinking it was like more of like a storage space or something.
No.
And you can see they're really small.
Yeah, they're relatively
not,
narrow.
You know, but, you know, and yeah. Somebody looked at one of our plans once and kind of said, well, it's kind of like an RA. I was like, well, not quite, but, you know, the theme is that they can be there, but not necessarily in a small apartment shadowing a resident all the time who might not need quite that level of support.
On average, how many caregivers will be there at a given time versus the population?
Boy, that is really a little bit speculative. I can tell you what we see at Irby Ranch. I mean, until the residents move in, you don't know what their particular needs are going to be. My guesstimate, based on Irby, is we probably have 1/3 of residents that have 24/7 or more intensive caregiving needs. We have 1/3 that might have caregiving needs with meals or things like that. And then we have 1/3 that have very little, or maybe like that ILS that I was talking about. Many of the residents at Irby Ranch go to day programs during the day, like a Los Trompas, the equivalent, obviously, in the Tri-Valley. But there are some, particularly some that are more, I want to say, maybe like in their 50s, 60s, that age range, that don't go to a day program. So, and the ones that, particular ones I'm thinking of are a little bit, more independent during the day. So, we won't know until, fingers crossed, it opens and residents move in.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, saving the best for last, just a few quick ones. You mentioned a wait list that has already been filled up. Was that primarily from people and I apologize for not being familiar with how your organization works. I want to also reiterate, thank you so much for the tremendous work you're doing. The wait list, is it from people, you mentioned people, people in Lafayette that had to move out because of lack of support. Is it from people in the area already? Is it existing Lafayette residents? Is it?
That is a fabulous question. And I will answer that as best as I can, but will tell you that the question you're really asking is local preference. I think you're asking, I don't want to be presumptuous, but in kind of the affordable housing world, it's called local preferences. And that is something that is driven by funding sources. So remember, this is all publicly funded. So those funding sources dictate local preferences to some extent. So until we secure funding, we don't know. The project in Pleasanton, Irby Ranch, was originally going to be kind of a live, work, or volunteer, which would certainly include anybody attending a day program. Pleasanton, and then the project was awarded A1 county bond money through Alameda County, and that preference got expanded to the Tri-Valley. So, and ultimately, that is something that will be discussed with the city staff and, I would imagine city council down the road, depending on funding sources. So many cities like a local preference. We don't know until funding. I will say that the Lanterman Act, which is the legislation governing the regional centers, does say that people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, have the right to live in the community they grew up in, right? So, it supports are needed, but you also have to balance that with housing laws, fair housing laws, and everything like that. So it's a question that needs to be kind of kicked down the road for now. But I will tell you, like when Susan and I did those presentations, it was probably the #1 question people asked, and sadly, desperate parents. How can I get my loved one in? Is there a local preference? So we just don't know right now.
Okay. I've heard talk from various commissioners and questions. What sort of support is offered on site 24/7? Is it only the sort of by resident caregiver need? Or is there like a dedicated, the lobby and people manning the desk regardless? I'm only thinking in terms of, what if something happens on site or either inside or outside, like what is there 24/7 to provide for residents?
Well, residents are responsible for through the regional center. So it's individual to each regional and to each client. So it's called an IPP. So each resident has a regional center case manager, and they're the ones that decide and determine the residents' needs. And then there are agencies that are vendored and contract with the regional center. So then they provide the SLS or the ILS. So that's kind of like the residents' immediate support needs. At Irby Ranch, there is an on-site property manager as well. So TCAC funding, the tax credit, requires, an on-site property, and that would be here, it would be through SAHA. SAHA, they have the development team that we're working with, Jonathan and his colleagues. They have resident services, and they also have property management. So SAHA would be doing property management as well.
Okay, and is
Do that.
it anticipated that there would be at least one person on site project, concierge service, for lack of a better phrase, like a lobby attendant type person that isn't necessarily attached to an individual resident?
The property manager at Irby lives on site, but isn't available. I mean, well, there's a 24/7 maintenance line.
Okay.
So, if there's a leak, a flood or something like that, any resident can, or their caregiver can call the 24/7 maintenance line. The property manager typically has standard, working hours.
Okay, and I guess piggyback off my other commissioner's good question. There was a lot of questions, obviously, particularly with this, where this site is located. Traffic is always going to come up as a community concern. And it seems, excellent idea with the residents themselves, the shuttle service. And however, it does sound like there's a non-insubstantial amount of support through either the various services. And do you anticipate on any sort of traffic impact study that accounts for the fact that though the residents themselves may not be commuting, a lot of people that support them will be, family, other agencies, et cetera?
I'm going to defer that one to Brian. Yeah, Brian, why don't you handle that on any traffic studies? I will tell you that parking is not an issue at Irby Ranch. And there were traffic studies there with that project. So Brian, is there anything you want to chime in on that one?
Yeah, I can. My office is immediately next door to this property. I've worked there for 3 years.
Can we turn him down just slightly?
Sorry.
I'm so sorry, it's extremely loud.
Oh, okay. Is that any better?
1 second, hold on. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if you could pull back from the mic or a little lower for now until we get it fixed.
I can certainly try. How about if I whisper?
That is better, thank you.
Okay, sorry.
That's great where you're at.
I'm calling in from Mexico, so I wasn't quite sure how the transmission would be. No, but I'm well aware of the impacts of Lafayette School and that whole area by coming and going from work. We have given a lot of consideration to the development of the site, whether it was for this particular use or whether it was for just general affordable housing, which I think is a great location for that. But certainly the population, as Rosemary said, I think maybe 1 or 2 people drive, Rosemary, is what you said, in Irby?
Yeah, very, very, very low at Irby Ranch.
But I think if you look at peak commute times, such as school traffic, there's nothing that would necessarily orient people coming at those times specifically. That's not to say they're not, because certainly some people will, but I think if you look at people.
Hold on, sorry.
We have an internal problem.
Yeah.
Sorry, 1 second. Testing? Nope, still terrible. Are we any better here? Okay, it sounds like, okay. Sorry, would you try and resume, Brian?
Sure. I think, could it be a challenge? Certainly. I think the reality is for this population, given this location, given the fact that the vast majority of these residents will not drive, and given that there's no schedule of, say, everyone be there at 8 o'clock for the first school bill, or everyone gets out at 2:55 in the afternoon, the likelihood of this being substantially impactful is not as great. I can tell you if I leave my office at 9:15 in the morning and come back before 2 o'clock, I can easily get left out. I typically go right, but there will be times probably when the paratransit vans, may be forced to go through the community, bluntly.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for the response. And the last question I had was, I was looking through the mock-ups, and I apologize if I missed it. Do you have one that is essentially a view looking from the west towards the east? Essentially, that backside there with the apartment buildings, what that would look like for them
Are you
for the
meaning
next?
the rear of the site?
Effectively, yes. Because I was looking for where you were having the outdoor space, and I was trying to kind of like picture in my head of like, what are these people going to be looking at the next 50 years?
Right, yeah, we don't have one in the set right now. We could definitely generate one.
Okay. Yeah, because I imagine that will be of concern to.
Real quickly, that's the first thing we always get.
Yes.
You're building a 50-foot wall right out our front door. So, and we can't see Mount Diablo and whatever, so.
Yeah.
Just letting you know. Thank you.
Yeah, we could provide all that. It's
And I just also wanted to invite any of you, if you're interested in touring Irby Ranch, we're more than, there are public tours, but we are more than happy to give any of you a private tour as well. So I always say seeing is believing. So my email's easy, my name, rosemarykerbach@yahoo.com. So email me and I would be more than happy to tour you at your convenience.
All right, I don't believe it's any more, no more questions from the panel. Do we have any public comment, speaking slips, or others in the room or online that wish to offer public comment? I see a hand raised in the back. I don't know if we've got one slip from them.
We have 2 speaker slips for persons in the room, and then we will move to online individuals. The first speaker is Jonathan Klein, followed by Lillian Klein.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight, and for the support the city has provided for this project. My name is Jonathan Klein. My family and I bought our house at 3316 Victoria Avenue here in Lafayette in 2006, and we have lived here ever since. We love living in Lafayette, and I want to thank you all for your contributions to the community and your commitment to making this such a great place to live. Really appreciate your time and dedication to our town. I'm here tonight to voice my strong support for the project on Moraga Road. We face an affordable housing crisis in California that hits all sectors of society, from a young family looking to buy their first home, to the war veteran suffering from homelessness, to the young person starting their career trying to find a decent, affordable place to rent. But perhaps people with disabilities are among the hardest hit of those struggling to make their way through this crisis. People with disabilities may have a tough time navigating through day-to-day tasks that pose no challenges to neurotypical people, but can make finding housing very difficult. They also are often discriminated against in the workplace, making it even harder to find a house that they can afford. This project will address many of those issues. It is well located, convenient to retail and transit, which is key for people who may not drive. It will offer a safe, attractive, well-managed property. And given the rent restrictions, it will be affordable and accessible to the population. And it will do all this with, as has been described, a really impressive suite of services. So I should also mention in passing that in another life, I had a 20-plus year career in banking, all of it financing affordable housing. And you may or may not be familiar with Saha, but would just add that they are a very well-respected affordable housing developer here in an area where we are blessed with a lot of terrific developers. I actually financed the Eden deal, Belterre, when I was working at another institution. So, so I come to you tonight to express my strong support for the project as a resident, and also as the parent of someone with a diagnosed disability. And I think if it's okay, I could now turn it over to Lillian.
Good evening. My name is Lillian Callahan Klein. I'm an autistic adult. I have been living at 3316 Victoria Avenue in Lafayette with my family since 2006. I'm here to support of the project. This project is important to me because it is very difficult for people with disabilities to find and obtain high-quality, affordable housing. People with disabilities struggle to obtain and retain their jobs due to their disability. So this project will be affordable, which will allow people with disabilities to live in a high-quality housing at an affordable rent. I would like to ask for your strong support with this project. It will help make a difference in the lives of people with disabilities. So as a longtime Lafayette resident who's lived nearby, I would like to thank you for taking your time to allow me to speak with you tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next speaker in the room is Carol Reef. And you're welcome to approach the lectern or sit at the presentation table, whichever you'd like.
I am the care partner for somebody who just had a stem cell transplant, so the mask, but I keep my distance. I live at 753 Old Jonas Hill Road, and I have lived in the Moraga Road area since 1989. I'm an architect, and I'm an architect who has designed schools for non-public schools for autistic communities down in San Jose, preschool to 22. So I know kind of services that are afforded. My kids went to Lafayette School. They're old now, they're 41 and 30-something. But we've been Lafayette School has been part of our community. The traffic is horrible. There isn't any way to talk about it other than it's horrible. At least twice a day. It takes me 15, 20 minutes to go from my house on Old Jonas Hill Road to Mount Diablo. I would like the city or the applicant to do a traffic study. And I am so supportive of this project. Part of what we loved when we came to Lafayette in 1989 was Las Trampas and the workshop that was downtown at that time too, of people of all different abilities. My children grew up knowing and seeing people who were different from themselves. But the traffic is terrible. And I can see bad behavior coming in and out of the project. And I think it needs a traffic study. So I encourage the city to require that. Again, I'm totally supportive of affordable housing for this population. But I think the city has to figure out how people are going to get into the school, how the fire department's going to get into the housing, and things like that, that doesn't back up traffic, again, all the way to Mount Diablo Boulevard, and prevent people from dropping off their children for the preschool at the church next door, which has been there for a very long time, and that playground is right at the entry to the housing project. So I think that there's lots of things to balance, but traffic is kind of 101 here. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have no more speakers in the room, so we'll turn to the Zoom audience. If you are not part of the applicant team but would like to speak on the project, please go ahead and raise your hand. The first is Patricia's iPhone. You're unmuted. Go ahead and offer your comments for up to 3 minutes. Patricia, your hand is raised, but you appear to still be muted. So go ahead. There
I'm
you go.
sorry, Greg, could you hear me now?
We can.
Thank you, I apologize. My name is Patricia Curtin, a 63-plus year resident of this community. 10 of those years were spent on the Planning Commission, and I want to thank all the commissioners, both Design Review and Planning Commission, for holding the study session tonight on an incredible and really important project for our community. Staff, both Greg and Stephanie, did a fabulous job in your presentations, and I thank you for your time as well, and everybody who has worked incredibly hard to bring this project to where we are this evening. This project is so important to our community, and it's really a continuum of providing services for our beloved IDD community that exists here where we all live. We have the beautiful Los Trompos facility so close to the project site. And we also have the new library that will be going in soon that is also committed to assisting with those at Los Trompos and also who will be at this project once it's approved. So we've got a really inspirational pull here for helping all of our IDD communities. I had the opportunity to tour Irby Ranch with Ms. Kerbach, and I would highly suggest, as she has offered to you, to also go to that project. It's a beautiful project, and the way they have it set up and the design and how it all works is so incredible and really impressive. I'd like to just make a comment on what I hear about traffic. I know that's a big issue for all of us in Lafayette. And yes, Moraga Road it has a lot of traffic, but please, please do not penalize those people who live here in Lafayette who need a place to live because of their disabilities, because traffic is caused not.
Oh, did you maybe accidentally just hit mute?
No. Patricia, your phone, your Zoom access appears to be active and not.
So I strongly.
There we go. So you dropped out for a moment.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just saying very quickly. Yes, there's traffic on Moraga Road, but I don't want our Lafayette people or our Lafayette projects to be penalized because of the traffic that exists there. It's not from Lafayette, so to speak. Yes, we have the school traffic, but most of that traffic is caused by non-Lafayette residents. So please, please do keep that in mind. And then lastly, I just want to recognize, and this is a project of passion, a project of need, a project of love. It is not a project for profit. And I hope you could embrace it like all of us here who are speaking you tonight and support the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. The next speaker is Robert Lavoie. You're being asked to unmute. Go ahead and we can hear you.
Thank you. I sent in a letter, so I won't ask all those questions. And I do want to say I appreciate the project. Having some kids with special needs, I know how important that is, and I have a lot of friends with kids in that situation. So just a few concerns. I live on 872 Moraga Road at St. Mary's, and I'm a 34-year resident, so I know traffic on Moraga Road better than just about everyone else, except maybe the lady on Jonas Hill. A little concern mentioned about the trash truck, how the truck would service the unit, because I don't think it's going to be pulling into the driveway there. So is there some space out front that'll be no parking so that service trucks can, grab the garbage bins, or Amazon trucks can park, things like that. So maybe they can discuss that. Let's see. Again, turnaround for the vans for the residents. it didn't quite look like there'd be enough turnaround room in the parking lot, so maybe that can be shown by the architect. And then massing, I mentioned that in my letter, but also it doesn't look like anybody's drawn any elevations compared to the neighboring properties. It sounds like some of the top level is going to be on top of the hill. And I think I calculated it was like a 50-foot hill. So anyway, that privacy issue and stuff with the residents in the back is a concern, as well as the view along Moraga Road. So that's all that I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lavoy. The next speaker is Nancy Wallace.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. My name is Nancy Wallace, and I am a longtime resident of Lafayette and the mother of a 24-year-old son with autism. I've also been an advocate for the special needs community in Lafayette for more than 20 years. I'm the founder of SEED, which is a local nonprofit that serves students with special needs and supports their needs in our local school districts. I'm also serve on the board of Las Trampas, which is a nonprofit that supports adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities, just a few blocks away from where this project is being proposed. I also served on the Lafayette School Board, and as part of that, part of my responsibility was to serve on the Joint City School Traffic Commission. So I'm also very familiar with the traffic situation around the Lafayette School District and on Moraga Road. I want to say, first of all, that there is an unbelievable need for the kind of housing that Sunflower Hill is proposing here. There is a severe shortage of housing available for people with IDD in our area. For families like mine, this creates a lot of anxiety for the future welfare of our son and our ability to support his needs. It also creates anxiety about the potential impact that his disability could have on our other children who may be required to support and care for him in his later years if housing is not available. Earlier, I sent an email to the city council when we were first talking about allocating this property for this project. And as I noted in that letter, there currently, the Department of Developmental Services shows that there are 189 adults with developmental disabilities living in Lafayette. And the most recent report from the Regional Center shows that more than half of its adults clients continue to live at home with their parents because there is no or other family members because there is no housing available for them. The annual impact report from Las Trampas indicates that 67% of our participants reside and are cared for by their families. Those are all adults. And the primary cause of that is the shortage of housing. As Rosemary mentioned, the Lanterman Act was established and adopted to try to provide rights for adults like my son to reside near their family so that their family can be available to help support them, but so that they can also live with maximum independence. And I think that that is what Sunflower Hill provides for many of the people in our community. I wanted to talk about the traffic situation, and I do, as I said, I understand the concern, but I do want to say, having visited Irby Ranch, I think that what Brian Griggs was saying is really important, that the traffic flow is outside of the normal peak flow times. And I think that that makes a big difference when you're considering the traffic situation. So I'm hoping that a traffic report will support that as well. Thank you for your time and for your consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Wallace. The next speaker is an iPhone, unnamed, and you're being asked to unmute. You're active.
Hi, this is Jonathan Astman, Associate Director of Real Estate Development with Satellite Affordable Housing Associates. I just wanted to thank you all for your attention and consideration of this project. I'm taking notes and look forward to circling back with the project team to consider those further. So that's all I have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Asman. And the final speaker is Brian Griggs.
Thank you. Hopefully the volume's better now. If it's not, give me the thumbs down. I think a lot's been said. I'm not going to reiterate much of what's been said by Nancy and Rosemary and several others. But I will tell you, listening to Lillian and Jonathan is probably the best indicator that you may have gotten tonight about the need for our community to, provide housing. And I didn't know a lot about it. I do have 2 children that are IDD and they're in the community, but they're fairly active functioning. But, I have been so proud to be a member of our community as far as SEED, Challenger Division of Lafayette Little League, what our employers do for this, completely underserved population. And to even have the opportunity to try and orchestrate this along with Jonathan and Sunflower Hill, a number of our local residents, Rick Human, Paul Farrow, who's there tonight, Scott Fear, they're all contributing their time to bring us this project. And we're trying to do what we can. This project, honestly, could be 6 stories high because we have 189 people. We can only give 48 of those people a place to live. That means, and this is age in place, when they move in, those 48 are going to be there for decades. So then we've got a whole nother quadri behind them. As far as the traffic, as I said earlier, it is a problem. Is this going to kick us over and break the camel's back, so to speak? No. Can we do a traffic study that's going to show we may put 20 or 30 or 40 more cars during peak hours onto what's probably 25,000 cars right now in those peak hours? Yes. Are we going to not approve a project or support a project because we have 1/10 of 1% additional traffic? I think that would be a failure for us as community residents to even consider that. And, as far as the design, we worked with staff. These are noise sensitive occupants. The community they're in needs to be away from Moraga Road. So the orientation of what we didn't want to have to put it up against the residences in the back, but it was best. And we had to have open space. The supportive services, as Rosemary said, are for the entire community. That's why this building's 4 stories. The entire ground floor is the supportive services. And those supportive services are not going to be just for the 48 residents. They're going to be for other members of the community. And we are going to make a difference with this project. Like Minnie had said, each of you contributing your time to the various commissions and coming every other week for meetings is to be applauded. I think our city council has been phenomenal in supporting this project. Our staff, as far as Stephanie and Greg and others, have been phenomenal, the city attorney. And so I really encourage you to, give us good feedback. We'll listen to it. We'll make the changes we can, but there's been a year of thought into this that I hope you can appreciate. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Griggs. That concludes the public comment portion. So you could offer an opportunity to rebut and then move into comments.
I don't know, would the applicant like any chance to rebut, continue? Okay.
We said it all, thank you.
Excellent. I believe now we have entered the comment period. We'll provide feedback.
Sure. I'll be fairly concise here with my comments. I think that the site planning is good, the way that the site is laid out. I think the siting of the building is good, the way it fits the elevations changes on the site. I think it fits in well. My comments, the stairway was mentioned earlier, and I would propose that you study that some more. I think whether it's enclosed or whether it's just screened or whether there's landscaping, I'm not sure what the solution is, but right now it kind of has that image of a fire escape, which I don't think is the image that you really want for the building. That somehow detracts from the overall quality of the design to my eye anyway. And my other comment is about the color selections. I would advise you that it's very popular right now to have that light and dark contrast in the exterior. But for this site, I think it would look better if the lighter color was actually darker so that you had 2 tones, but that they were closer together. So that I think that it would help the building fit into the site more, because that is kind of the coloring along that street and have not quite that contrast that makes it jump out at you, because I don't think that's really what you want for the building. I think you want it to recede and fit in, sort of set back from the visual part of the streetscape along there. So those are my comments.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I do agree with what Richard said. But actually maybe before that, I just certainly want to say that this is the second time I can say I support your mission and your project.
Sorry, could you lean forward just a bit? Just so the mic can pick up you need to lean it forward a little bit just so the mic can pick you up.
Oh, I'm sorry, the microphone's too far from me. Sorry about that. So first, to say, as I said a few years back, I support your project and your mission. We really hope it can happen. I appreciate what you're doing. Regarding the project and comments, I agree with Richard's comments generally. The site organization is very logical, and my only question is whether you've reviewed that with County Fire and you can get appropriate fire access to the back portion of the site. I think the comment about the trash is worth considering as well. How does the trash collectors actually do their job? What we didn't see at all in this presentation is anything related to the context, to understand the buildings that are around it. I visited the site, but I couldn't really climb up the hill to really understand what was behind, other than that it looked like two-story multifamily residential. And that's going to be your most sensitive neighbor. And I don't know what the visual impact is on them or the privacy impact is on them, but the people who are going to fight you, if they fight you at all, which I hope they don't, is people who feel their privacy, or primarily their privacy, but potentially view, which I doubt, is impacted beyond reasonable. So I would suggest that you consider the impact to the residences adjacent to your site. Regarding your exterior design, I think the setback at the fourth floor at the street is a nice gesture, and the idea of doing a feature element facing the street is a nice gesture. I'm not sure I'm fully convinced with the way the design looks now what that gesture is. I mean, Court 10 is a premium material that I like. Not everybody does. It's very industrial feeling. And it's the element at the front is sort of heavy and opaque feeling. Think about something that feels a little more welcoming facing the street, but the thought of having an identity gesture there, I do appreciate. I agree with Richard's comments regarding color, especially that an off-white stucco in the summer sunshine is going to be gleaming white. And it might look more comfortable on a cloudy winter day, but on a bright summer day, I think the contrast will be very extreme. So I think that was a good comment. And I also agree that the open stair seems a bit foreign to the design and may sort of look a little cheap motel, which may not be the look you're after. So, but you got a great start. There's a load I like about the project, and I do hope you succeed.
I concur with my fellow commissioners on DRC. I like the design. I congratulate you on bringing this project to us. Color-wise, I think the suggestions are valid. The stairway, the suggestions are valid. I'd like to see elimination of artificial turf. I don't really think you need a full transportation study, traffic study, but I do suggest that you work with staff on circulation within the property. In fact, I'm almost encouraged to take the entry where you have the exit and turn it around and restrict right-hand turns only, because that's going to be disastrous to try to have someone pay attention to the school, the daycare, and build up traffic and try to make a left-hand turn out of there any time of the day. Other than that, I think it's a great project. Thank you.
I too am really excited about this project. I am an architect and used to work on housing for this population and got to work with satellite housing. And it's just, I'm glad to see it here. And I actually think in terms of the traffic concerns, sort of starting at the top in terms of location, that to me, this project, sort of all possible housing projects, is the best fit for this site. And I think the city will continue to do what it can to mitigate any traffic concerns there, but it is really certain times of day, and I think it's, I don't know, to me, it seems like it's getting more manageable, but in any case, I don't see this, I think we'll look at the traffic study, and I don't see this project as being, you know, out of place for that corridor. I think it's a perfect fit. In terms of the questions staff put to us, the overall site design, building, siting, everything, I really like the design. There's a lot of things going on, and I feel like they're laid out really well in terms of the way the spaces work and the way the building sits on the site. I think giving the smallest front to Moraga is a good thing. And providing privacy to the residential uses in the back. And then I think in the next round, seeing what the massing looks like in terms of the relationship between the rear neighbors. But it sounds like something, especially given the topography, that can be managed well. Let's see. And then in terms of the massing, I appreciate the step downs at the front and the measures to sort of soften the corners and make parts of it more transparent. And I just look forward to seeing the next iteration of that. I think while sort of having the upper story, well, the step back is great, so don't change that. But the 3-story section on the front, I get the sense that I think we should put more thought into sort of what the experience is at eye level and car level. And I think the massing of the second and third floor will feel sort of heavy because of the glazing, the solid glazing on the bottom floor. So I think just imagining there's a lot of pedestrian traffic and a lot of cars there all the time. And I don't know, just sort of looking at that and maybe sort of tying it into some of the residential architecture that's on the street. That's all I have. Thank you. Good presentation.
Thank you for bringing this project to us. It fits a definite need for people who can't speak for themselves. So I'm a big supporter of it. I'm not particularly worried about traffic. I just wanted to brace it up. First of all, I'm an engineer. Nobody should look to me for aesthetics, okay? That's what design review is for. But I would like to see something that fits in a little bit better with the parcels on either side. Generally, downtown Lafayette architectural size seems to be boring, but it works for us. I would like to make sure we get a rear elevation, because for the planning commission, that's the first thing everybody screams about is, hey, you blocked our view or whatever. But it is going to be what it is. It's going to be a tall building up against the back, and I'm fine with that. I would like to pay attention to idling adjacent to the church playground where the kids are playing. So how, come up with a plan of how you're going to do that, whether you encourage the trucks to not idle. Any delivery trucks, they're going to idle anyway. But all in all, I think it's a good project, and I hope this one comes back and it works well.
I also want to thank you for this project. I'm very supportive of the project. I think it's great. When you go back and think about this, think about the width of the path on the south side. I really like the idea of having the planters there. And so but you might want to have a little more room if people are doing gardening. Also, I understand the reason for the traffic flow that was presented because the minibuses need to have a curb on the right-hand side when they park. So I don't have any concerns with the direction of traffic flow. And I also don't have really any objections to the incremental traffic, and we'll find out how the rules are, but I assume that's not really going to be a factor. But thank you very much.
I also think this is a fantastic project, so thank you for bringing it forward. A couple things that were already said. I agree that the rounded portion against the sidewalk feels heavy. Maybe it could be achieved by different colors. I liked, one of the design review commissioners suggested, I do agree with the siding. I think it is the best position on the overall parcels. But somehow if there's any way to add some landscaping or even 3 feet or something possible to scoot off of the sidewalk. I've heard a lot about traffic study. I think it's, I would suggest something that staff work with the applicant on, because everyone has a different idea of what a traffic study means. There's traffic studies used in CEQA, there's traffic studies used for circulation. And my thought is this is currently a public parking lot that has a lot more cars coming in and out than what this project would have coming in and out. So it's something why I think it makes sense to work with staff on what, air quotes, a traffic study would mean. One thing that wasn't brought up is people who are taking their children to Lafayette School. I want to make sure they're not using your property as a way to have temporary parking to have their kids run over and meet. When a different project, but the one that was brought up that was proposed originally behind US Bank in that area, I really liked when we saw that project and there was a work program set up with the new movie theater or the reopening of the Park movie theater. If there's any type programs like that, I think, I see your head nodding, I think that would be fantastic. I personally really liked that about the last project, the separate project. I also think this is a fantastic location given any of the residents and the community members who are going to be traveling to Las Trampas by foot or bike. You could take the sidewalk all the way past Stanley School, hop on the trail, and you can walk that way. You're not having to walk downtown, so I think it's a great location. And then I brought up the thing earlier about pets, just not in the same area that's intended for residents to hang out. Okay, thank you.
I'll just broken record it. I mean, anything that touches that Moraga Road, whether it be needed or not, but anything you can show, here's an objective analysis for the traffic, either it's de minimis or maybe even positive if that increases, it's changing it from a parking lot. I think we go a long way towards, it seems like a pretty good community support. I think most everyone here, as far as I can tell, everyone here supports the project, and taking that sort of thing away would be fantastic. Yeah, I mean, that's, I think the biggest one you're going to see for this. And then obviously also being able to come for the immediate residents and say, here's what it's going to look like. It may unfortunately impact some of you negatively, but it is what it is. Here's a good representation. And just bear in mind, to the previous point, the alternative, which will probably be much worse. So those are the only two comments I had. And I think that wraps us up.
Can I have one more comment?
Oh.
Something occurred.
I lied.
I just wanted to reiterate requests for some bird's eye views, because that will help people understand the massing and the relationship to the neighbors. And then Commissioner Cass had brought up the feelings about turf or artificial turf. And it'd be good to see some more detailed information about the landscaping and the amount of what's going to thrive there, given the amount of sunlight, given the height and the sort of narrowness of the courtyard, and then potentially the rear outside area that's connected to the workout space. Because there'll probably be questions about that in the next round. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, moving on to the next item.
The DRC is going to dismiss itself? Okay.
No worries. Give everyone just a second to filter out. Oh, I think we're gonna take like a 5-minute break, just everybody get kind of readjusted and all that. Order here. Okay, so moving along to the next agenda item, the continued public hearing for the Hill Oak Place proposed project. I believe we have a presentation.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. Again, my name is Stephanie Cervantes with the Planning Department. I'll be presenting TR 9707 and associated planning applications, also known as Oak Hill Place. The project, it consists of 17 units with 3 ADUs, and the project site is 3600 Deer Hill Road. So just due to the time, I'm going to be going through this pretty quickly, and the Planning Commission has heard this project. It was heard on March 17, so I'll go through these slides fairly quickly. The project site is approximately 3.19 acres. It is located on the corner of Deer Hill and Oak Hill Place, north of Highway 24 and across the street from the BART station. The site is zoned R10 and also has a hillside overlay district. The existing site conditions, the site does contain slopes. It's relatively square. There is a bit of a bump on the top left corner of the site there. The slopes have a high point at the center left, the west side of the property. The low points are towards the southeast at the bottom of the swell and the corner of Deer Hill and Oak Hill Roads. There are scattered trees throughout the site, especially clustered around the swell along Oak Hill. The site contains several existing easements. There is a slope easement on the southern side, the southern end of the parcel. There's also a sanitary easement to the private property owners to the north, and there is a PG&E easement on the site as well. So at the March 17 Planning Commission meeting, there was comments that were provided to the applicant. Based on those comments, there was also subsequent changes that were made to the project plan. So I'm just going to quickly summarize them on this slide, as I'll be going through them in more detail in the following slides. So some of the comments that were received on March 17 included stormwater management on the site. There was also questions about the parking on the site, as well as there was a lot of discussion along a possible public sidewalk along Oak Hill Road. There was a lot of discussion of the trees and which ordinance should be applied to the project. And there was also comments and concerns made about the scale and height of the proposed structures. Based on those comments, there have been a number of changes. So again, really quickly, just to summarize, one of the changes includes moving the main driveway access south, away from that northern property line. The unit count has also increased from 15 units to 17 units. Unit sizes have also been changed. Previously, the smallest unit was about 750 almost 800 square feet. That has been increased to about a little over 1,000 square feet. Units 4 through 7, the building footprints have been moved slightly to allow for better views from the northern property owners. Unit 4 has also been lowered and the roof pitch has been changed. Unit 5 has been flipped so that the higher massing of the part of the building is less visible for the northern property owners. Units 14 and 15 have also been reconfigured. The lots and the footprints have been reconfigured, so now they're closer to Oak Hill Place. There's additional fencing along the northern property line, new fencing on top of the previously proposed retaining walls that are still there. The parking has also increased. The previous version of the project had 30 parking spaces. This has 34 parking spaces, which is 2 per unit. The project now includes public sidewalk along Oak Hill Road. There was comments about the grading and the need for a more balanced grading on the site. So the grading quantities have changed. So previously there had been excess cut that would be off-hauled, but with the new proposed changes, there's going to be a net need for fill to be brought onto the site. There's also a new parcel E that's intended to be a sewer easement. The parcel sizes have also been adjusted. There's been some of the parcel sizes have gone up, some have gone down, but the overall average has increased. And the tree removals have also changed. So previously the project was proposing to remove 67 trees. Now they're proposing to remove 96 trees, and I'll go into more detail. So going through the project description, as I mentioned, there's one new parcel E on here, so I'll just go through them down the list here. So parcel A in the orange and parcel B in the blue are the open space parcels. Parcel C is in gray is the streets. Parcel D in the green, that is the slope easement that is to remain. Parcel E in the yellow towards the north, that is the new sewer easement. And then lots 1 through 17 in white are the new single-family homes. This shows the preliminary site plan. So as previously mentioned, the overall site is 3.19 acres. Removing the parcel D, the developable area is about 2.3 acres. The project proposes 17 new lots that will each have a single-family home. 3 of these lots are proposed to have attached ADUs. And the project's also proposing a central community park that will contain the 100-year-old valley oak tree that is existing. As I previously mentioned, the parcel sizes have changed. So now the smallest parcel is Unit 7 towards the north. That will be at 2,311 square feet. The largest parcel is Unit 17, also along the north, which is now at 3,612 square feet. And the building footprints range from 1,123 square feet to 1,300 square feet. Unit sizes have also been adjusted. So the smallest units are now units 11, 16, and 17, which will contain 3 bedrooms at just over 1,000 square feet. The largest units will be units 8 through 10. That will be 4 bedrooms at just over 2,000 square feet, and will also have the attached ADUs at 430 square feet. The garages have also increased in size. All the units have a 1-car garage now that will be 250 square feet and up. Here's the layout for the plans. So there are 5 plans, 5 floor plans that are being proposed. They are clustered together except for Plan 4. So Plan 4 will be for Unit 11, that's on the south, and then Unit 16 and 17, that's on the northern side. I'm going to go through the floor plans. So Plan 1 will be used for Units 1 through 3, which is on the eastern side. The western side of the property. These will be 2-story units containing 4 bedrooms, just over 2,000 square feet of living area. We'll have a 1-car garage, and we'll also have outdoor patio and porch space. At the bottom there, you can see the different roof pitches that will be used for these units. Plan 2 will be used for units 4 through 7 along the northern property line. These will also be 2-story units, will contain 3 bedrooms, as well as an office space on the first bedroom. These will have 1,712 square feet of living area, as well as a 1-car garage at 272 square feet. Will also contain outdoor space for patio and porch. And these units, there's a better slide with a better view of these renderings, but you can start to see some of the changes that were made to units 4 and 5 here. Plan 3 will be used for units 8 through 10. These are the center units in the middle of the loop. These will be 3-story units with 4 bedrooms. These will also contain the attached ADUs, which will be in the lower level. And those are studio ADUs. These will have over 2,000 square feet of living area, as well as the one-car garage, and small areas for outdoor space. You can see here the 3 different levels. The lower floor has the ADU with 1 bedroom. The second floor has the main vehicle and pedestrian access, as well as the common space. And then the 2 remaining bedrooms will be on the top floor, as well as the loft space. Plan 4 will be used for units 11 and 16 and 17. These are single-story floor plans that will have 2 bedrooms, just over 1,000 square feet. They will also contain a 1-car garage and contain outdoor space. And then unit 11 is the affordable unit. And lastly, Plan 5, this will be for units 12 through 15. These are 2-story units that will contain 3 bedrooms, as well as a flex space on the top level. These will have 1,799 square feet of living area with the 1-car garage, as well as exterior porch space. So going through some street scenes, these are the units 1 through 3. There have been no changes to these exteriors from the previous proposal. These are units 4 through 7. So this is the rendering I was speaking of, where you can see the changes made to unit 4. That roof pitch was lowered, as well as the roof slope was made less steep. Unit 5 was previously mirrored with the higher massing to the west. So it has been moved to the east to allow that lower roof side on the western side. These are units 8 through 10. These units will have street-facing sides from both ends of the loop. So on the top, you can see the main entrance and vehicle access to the garage. On the lower level, you can see the backside of these units. So these units are 3 stories. They will read as 2 stories from the main entrance and then 3 stories from the backside of the loop. And then these are the street scenes for units 11 through 15. They are 2-story units, but from the inside of the loop will read as single story with the main entrance and vehicle access. And then from Oak Hill Place will read as 2 stories, and you can see the private seat fencing that's also proposed. So again, there have been some changes to the parking and access since the previous version of the project. So the driveway entrance will still be from Oak Hill Road. However, it has been moved to the south by about 60 feet or so. And so now it doesn't have that kind of curve that goes along the northern property line. It's just a straighter shot right into the loop and the courts. The parking has increased to 34 parking spaces. Each unit will have a 1-car garage and also have 1 assigned parking space. There is still a shared bicycle shed. However, that's been moved to the south side of the vehicle entrance next to Unit 15. The mulch pathway from Loop B will still be accessed near Unit 11, and now it will more clearly connect to the public pathway along Oak Hill Road and connect to the existing public sidewalk on Deer Hill Road. And so the major change to pedestrian circulation is the addition of that new public pathway along Oak Hill Road that will be partially in the public right-of-way, partially on private property. Again, the tree removals and landscaping have been modified since the previous approval. So the project site still has 160 trees on or near the site. Now the project proposes to remove 96 trees. Out of those 96 trees, 80 are protected. The increase of trees needed to be removed is due to the new public pathway along Oak Hill Road. Many of the trees need to be removed in order to make room for that public pathway. So this is a rendering from the last, I'm sorry, this is the landscape plans. So this shows the trees to remain. Again, the 100-year-old Valley Oak will remain as part of the community park. The light green shows the existing vegetation that you can see here towards, most of that is on the southern part of the, the southern part of the developable area, as well as along Oak Hill Road, and then along the northern side of the proposed driveway. There are 64 trees proposed to remain. For the proposed landscape improvements, again, there will be the central community park. Each unit will have planting areas in the front, and there's also new trees being proposed along the northern property line for screening purposes, as well as the previously proposed trees used for screening on the south ridge. Again, the grading plan has changed for the project. So now there is an excess of, there's almost 20,000 cubic yards of total grading that will occur on the site. So both the cut and the fill has increased. After balancing the grading on site, there will be a need to bring in 1,450 cubic yards of fill for the site. Most of that new fill is needed for the units along Oak Hill Road, as well as the public pathway that's being proposed. The draining plan has also been modified. There is a new bioretention basin being proposed just south of the driveway, and the new, the existing man-made swell will be converted to a storm drain that will carry water from the northern side of the property through the small bioretention basin along Oak Hill Road down to the larger bioretention basin on the southeast corner that will then connect to the existing public storm drain services. The other drain that is proposed to the site is, there were some minor changes, but it's relatively the same as this drainage plan that you saw in March. Here are just two quick renderings for you to see. So on the top left of the screen is a rendering that you can see for, this is a view of the community park. You can also see units 4 through 7 in the back, as well as, I believe that's unit 3 on the left side and unit 8 on the right. And then at the bottom, these are this is a view like if you're standing outside of unit 5, looking towards the community park. I'm sorry, looking towards the units in the center loop. Moving on to the analysis for the project. The project is proposed to be a density bonus project. They are providing one affordable restricted unit on site, which allows them a 25% density bonus. Under the general plan land use designation, the site is allowed a maximum of 14 units. With the density bonus of 25%, the site can accommodate up to 18 units. The project proposes 17. The project is entitled to one incentive or concession and unlimited waivers to development standards. The Lafayette Density Bonus Code also requires that affordable units on site be equal to the market rate units in terms of location, integration into the project, construction materials, infrastructure, timing, and permits. So the project has requested a concession as well as waivers, so I'll go through those now. The concession that was requested is for the project to be approved under the new tree preservation ordinance, as was previously discussed in March. Due to the date that the application was deemed complete, the project was reviewed under the old tree preservation ordinance. The concession allows the city to review and approve the project under the new preservation ordinance. So the protected tree values and the replacements will all be guided by the new tree preservation ordinance. The applicant has also requested 5 waivers. So the first is to building height, to increase the height from 2.5 stories to 3 stories. The project is not requesting any waivers to increase height over the 35 feet that's allowed per the zoning district. All the structures are under that 35-foot threshold. There's also a waiver for parking within the setback. The ordinance does not allow parking in the front yard setback area for lots. The project is proposing several of the parking spaces to be within that front yard area. There's also 2 waivers being requested from the R10 lot width and depth requirements. The proposed lots do not meet those requirements, and the waivers are being requested. Excuse me. There is also a waiver being asked for height limitations in required yard areas. The code currently requires fence heights to be maximum 6 feet in the required yard areas, and the proposal does include fences that are higher than 6 feet in yard areas, including the northern property line. Just for a reminder, the project does qualify under the state density bonus laws and may not be reviewed in the same manner as other discretionary approvals. The city may only require changes to the project if the changes are necessary to ensure the project complies with objective standards, or if the project poses a public health or safety risk, environmental problem, or harm to a historic property. The city may still request changes from the developer, but there is no obligation. The project is in conformance with the general plan. The project conforms with multiple general plan policies that were described in the report, as well as the resolution for the project. The project is requesting a higher density than is allowed in the general plan land use designation. However, because it is a density bonus project, that is allowed, and it does not make the project non-conforming. The project generally complies with the zoning ordinance with the following exceptions to height and parking. And again, the project has requested waivers from those development standards. The project is in conformance with the tree regulations. As previously mentioned, there was a concession requested for the project to be reviewed under the new tree protection ordinance, which has been done. The proposed removal of 80 protected trees, as well as the replacement tree species and sizes, will be in conformance with the new tree preservation ordinance. For California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA, the applicant has submitted documentation to support the Class 2 CEQA exemption for the infill exemption. Staff has reviewed the project and documentation and found that the project meets the requirements for the exemption. For public notice, so the March meeting was noticed 10 days before. There was a notice that was mailed to 61 addresses, as well as placed in 3 locations near the project site. The meetings for May 5th and this meeting today were not noticed in the same manner as they were continued meetings from March 17 and from May 5th. Since the March 17 meeting, staff has received there was 5 public comments included in the agenda, and as well as 3, sorry, this still says 2, as 3 public comments that were received between the staff report publication and noon today. And those were emailed and included in the published agenda, as well as handed out hard copy tonight. So the recommendation tonight is for the Planning Commission to review the revised proposal and adopt PC Resolution 2025-04, referring the project to Design Review Commission for review of architecture and landscaping, and recommending that the City Council approve the project. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for questions. The applicant is also here and has prepared a presentation.
Two quick questions. So one of them was the waiver of the 6-foot fence requirement. I didn't see anything. Is there a maximum fence height?
Just for clarification, you're asking for what that new height is?
No, so one of the waivers was a waiver from the 6-foot height fence limitation, and you just made a reference to, well, the fence heights are going to be what they are. And I was wondering, is there a maximum fence height, 8 feet or whatever?
I will let the applicant address that.
Okay, so also, since we're at the top of the slope, is a geotechnical report been provided?
I can look through the project file. I believe so, but I would need to look at it to confirm.
Okay, thank you.
I thought I heard you say that each unit will have a one-car garage and then also a parking space. Can you please zoom in? I'm having a hard time for this sites 8, 9, and 10 that have the ADUs. I assume then that the ADU will also have a designated parking spot. So those 3 units, and maybe this is a question for the applicant, those 3 units then would have a garage spot and 2 outdoor parking spots? Can you please clarify?
Yes, so the units with the ADUs will also have 2 parking spaces total. So none of the units will have 3 parking spaces.
So a unit that's however many bedrooms plus an ADU will have the same number of parking spaces as the smallest, roughly 1,000 square foot unit that's 2 bedrooms?
Yes, that is correct. I would just like to remind the commission that due to the location of the site within half a mile of the BART station, the city cannot require parking for the project site. So in the R10 district, our requirements are 2 parking spaces per single family unit, which is what's being proposed. Our ADU requirements also don't require parking for the ADU. So the project is compliant in that sense as well.
Okay, yeah, I do understand that. And then just a heads up to the applicant, I'll be asking the applicant of how they envision, even though parking's not required, most people do have a car. So just heads up, I'll be kind of asking your thoughts on what'll be going on there. Okay, thanks.
So regarding the change in the entrance and exit there, one of the letters, and when we can talk about this later, I can ask the applicant, but one of the concerns was people in a letter said, they were concerned, essentially, they're concerned about the sight lines for exiting traffic out of the development. And I don't see that as a problem. I mean, my recollection, and I don't know if you have gone back since the change, if you went back and asked engineering if they have any concerns on the distance, but my recollection is there's something like 150 to 200 feet necessary for a sight line, and that's available in this instance. But have you clarified that since the change?
Yes, thank you for the question. So engineering did review the revised, the new site plan along with the new location of the driveway. There was no concern about site distance with the new location.
2 quick questions. The new drain system that I think is going along Oak Hill Road, how is that going to fall under in terms of like responsibility? Is that going to be applicant HOA in time? Is that somehow going to be mud? I'm just curious, like essentially who do you know who will be responsible for like fixing it, cleaning it, make sure it works so it doesn't back up and flood everything?
I'm sorry, which portion of
I
the,
believe it was on the east side, the drain system that was now proposed. Drainage, yeah, existing man-made soil converted to a storm drain. Maybe I'm misunderstanding where that was going, but was that on that east side there? And is that kind of running down along where underneath the units and, underneath where the units and public walkway are going to be?
So it's going to run along underneath the new proposed public pathway along Oak Hill Road for a portion, but the storm drain is all on private property. So the sidewalk does, there's a portion of it that is on public property, but I would say 90% of it is on private property, and the storm drain is underneath it.
Okay, and I guess just following up, like, is that, I'm unfamiliar enough with how that would operate. Like if it gets, leaves cover it before the rainy season hits and then it starts flooding into the street or something like.
So maintenance of the storm drain and of the bioretentions will be up to the HOA.
Okay, thank you. And then the waiver they're seeking for I think it was 2.5 to 3, is that, am I understanding right that that's more or less to accommodate for the fact that some of the units are sort of going down now and just the way we happen to measure stories works out that way and they're not actually going up further in height?
Yeah, so one of the changes was because some of the unit footprints were moved, and the way that the city calculates height, the overall height of those units have been reduced. So the previous proposal included a waiver request for units that exceeded 35 feet. Because of the changes, that's no longer needed. So the 3-story units are under the 35 feet with the way that the city measures height, but they still exceed that second part of the height requirement, which is the 2.5 stories.
And that's because they're kind of going down on a sloped hill to.
Correct.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, I believe you said the applicant had a presentation.
I'm Laura Duto. I'm the owner, developer, and the design architect on this project. I'm going to talk about Oak Hill Place.
Sorry, just to check, is her mic on? I don't know if you want to come to the front. I know that mic is working.
Is this working now?
Oh, never mind.
So it's a new pocket neighborhood for Lafayette, across the street from BART, short walk to downtown, subdivision of 17 homes with 3 small ADUs. There will be 1 home that is deed restricted for a very low-income buyer, making this a California density bonus project. I'm going to move fast, so maybe let's move to the next slide, just quickly introducing myself. I think I've been here, and I think you were all here, so I won't go through this. I'm local. We've raised our kids here. My husband grew up here, and I really take pride in this being something that I can walk by in 10 years and be really proud of it as a local person, small-scale developer. Next slide. This just gives you some context about how close we are to BART, and anything within a quarter mile allows us that kind of no parking requirement. Now, we all park, as you mentioned, and I'm very cognizant of that. And so we have provided a single car garage for every home and a guest parking space. Okay. The area on the map on the right just delineates where the Lafayette Hillside Memorial is. It's part of the reason that I took on this project. We have written up a use easement for them. It's recorded with the county. So I just want to be really clear that whatever happens here and with the discussion about housing, that memorial is safe and it will remain as it is. It is not part of the development. Next slide, please. So just to give you some background about how the site came to be, we started with the memorial. We started with protecting the ridge at the top of the hill and that beautiful tree, which can be seen all over. We celebrated the tree by putting a community garden or a yard at the base of the tree. We then worked extensively with the fire department and a fire code consultant to come up with the best emergency vehicle access. Then we decided to make this a courtyard around that park with these clusters of buildings, and it made sense. We saved all of the setbacks around the side. We actually gave additional setback to the north side. And we then kind of dissipated the buildings along the side. I'm still looking at E, where there was an original man-made culvert with and it was pretty wooded. I really tried to approach the project from this kind of semi-rural approach at that time. And then after the Planning Commission comments, I went back to the drawing board and made significant changes because I couldn't live with myself if somebody got hurt there. And I had talked to a lot of people that felt that it was an unsafe place to walk to town, which the point of it is a walk to town neighborhood. So we kind of cleaned up that Oak Hill by filling in the man-made culvert, which made way for the sidewalk and a more efficient layout for some units that actually make a little bit more sense for this missing middle approach that I'm going for. Next slide. These were the comment categories. I'm not going to go through these again. I think what we can do is actually move to the next slide, and I'll just go quickly through again. These might be graphics that can help. So the pedestrian safety was solved by a 6-foot public ADA compliant walkway along Oak Hill Road. There were some nice suggestions that you made about trying to be creative with this thing, and we actually gave quite a bit of public right of way on quite a bit of a taking on the property to allow for the sidewalk to slide in, and we saved 7 mature oak trees along Oak Hill. So there's still gonna be a canopy there, and you can see that in the renderings. I think it's still gonna be, I'm still pleased with the way it looks in terms of the feeling of the neighborhood. Next slide. And this is it here. This also shows you the kind of balance and cut, the comments about the balance of the site with cut and fill. We were really able to solve a lot of that by filling in this man-made culvert, and everybody on board feels this is actually a lot cleaner. I've had a lot of comments saying, you know, that's not even a nice culvert that like collects trash. And so I think this is actually a much more nice sort of entry into the neighborhood. Next slide. Here's that image again, and then here the comment was building heights. Actually, we didn't actually get a lot of comments about the building heights, but I actually felt like the building heights along Oak Hill were a little high, and so we went back to the drawing boards, and because we were able to fill in this culvert, we were actually able to come up with a new building type, which is just a 2-story structure with 3 bedrooms and a little family room downstairs. So this is a 1,700 square foot home, and its backyard is facing Oak Hill. So we were able to drop that by 10 feet. So that's a significant difference along Oak Hill. Next slide. Here the comment was fully utilizing the density bonus. We had 4 or 5, actually 5 comments from housing advocates and other people and community members that felt that if we were going to do this density bonus, we should have more units. And so because I was, again, making this possible, if you look at 13 and 14 in the first proposal, those were kind of the big units, like 8 through 10, where they had the ADU downstairs, and there was no access to those. So I was never really that pleased with those offering an affordable choice for housing here. And so we replaced those with these kind of smaller 1,700 square foot units. And then we were able to then replace that. We were able to actually offer 3 of the 1,000 square foot units, which is going to be, you know, that little 2-bedroom single-story cottage, which really fits a lot of needs for people. There was a question about, so the height on 8 through 10 now, those are the only 3 buildings that go up to 3. The reason it's called 3 is not because there's 3 stories ever, except in an attic, right? So there was a little correction in the staff report in that it said that from the upper loop, it read like a 2-story building. It actually reads like a single-story building from the upper loop with living in the attic. So it's still an 8-foot plate, and it comes up and you have those bedrooms sliding in through the middle. So the idea was to keep the massing low. So it's really kind of a misnomer that it's a 3-story building. It's really 2.5, 2 with an attic, okay? Next slide. Then we went through a lot of landscape revisions, a couple of things with a lot of notes, a lot of graphic standards that we worked with to get into this new tree ordinance. The replacements it has really allowed us to make a lot better decisions about tree replacement and the resilience and sustainability of the site, which is great. We then had that reviewed and replaced some of these trees at the bottom of the big oak with smaller 15-gallon and more of an understory. So there's kind of like this whole new approach for fire safety for these tree replacements. So we're happy with that. On the right, I show an image of the big tree, and I show the red line is not the power. The red line is not the story pole, but inside the white rectangle is the end of the story pole for unit 1. So I just wanted to show you visually, because I don't know how many of you really got up there, but we've really given ample space to that. We surrounded this neighborhood. We built this neighborhood around that tree. In the landscape report, they talked about how pleased they were with how thoughtfully considered to celebrate it and skillfully organized to enhance its preservation. They go on to talk about all of the different strategies that we used were all kind of spot on for preserving that tree. And we did a little bit more work on detailing the tree protection zones, and so that was sort of this tree ordinance concession that we were able to implement. Next. Okay, this gets to the last set of comments. We really received a ton of lovely comments as you remember, I spoke to over 50 community members and neighbors before our first Planning Commission meeting, and I think we had about 20 really nice letters and good comments in support of the project. The only 3 people that came out in opposition to the project at that time were exactly adjacent neighbors, and they've been looking at open space for a long time, and I think this is hard for them. I've met with each of them, Mr. Bava 4 times, Mr. Cripps 5 times, sat at their kitchen tables, tried to work with them, and I think I came up with some really meaningful changes. Moving the road south gets the road lights out of Mr. Bava's bedroom. That was a significant change right there. I kept the buildings that I put on top of that. I could have gone 2-story, I kept them single story. Next slide. For Mr. Cripps, just to get clarity, where the 2-3 is, this is a driveway. So this is his kitchen window where these arrows are coming from, but a lot of this is really kind of considered, like, I would say, a kind of a side yard. The views he has out the west and the arrow on the left are really beautiful. And so, yes, this has an impact. What I was trying to do was clear up a little bit more setback for him so that the view out southwest of his kitchen window could be better. So I proposed that I move the building over 5 feet and giving him an additional 5 feet to the setback. I proposed that we flip unit 5, moving the massing away from him. So now I've got, the next slide will show this better. I do need to just go back to that one slide really quickly. I just wanted to show you that we also pushed the buildings 2 feet closer to the northern property line for a reason. First of all, that's a 10-foot setback, and right now it was originally a 15-foot 5 that we gave them, and it's still 13. So 10 required, and it's at 13, right? So it's still an abundant side back that we left. The reason we did that is because with this new tree ordinance, we can't plant a tree within 5 feet of the building. And I really want to soften the architecture from the front, especially now that I have this weird architecture on unit 4, right? So because I dropped that roof, I really wanted to be able to plant a couple street trees in front there to kind of soften it. So this was one of those things where we're going to move it here, but we just need these extra 2 feet for the trees. Next slide. This shows the sky for him from his house. The one on the left is what we had proposed before. And then the one on the right is what we're proposing now. You get 30 feet to the first 2-story structure. We've dropped the whole thing 4 feet. Keep in mind that that's one-off engineering. It's expensive. I have to have it stick framed. It's not a truss. So it's a significant revision for them. And I think it makes a really big difference for Mr. Leonis too, who has not at all responded to me after multiple emails, door knocks, and phone calls. So I do think that this helps Mr. Leonis as well. Next slide. In addition, there's a couple of architectural, besides dropping the ridge on that unit 4, I started with the window in bedroom 3 that could potentially look into his kitchen window. I then moved it up so that it was at 5 feet, so you had to kind of tiptoe. And then just 2 days ago, sitting in his kitchen, I agreed to get rid of the window altogether. So that can be a condition of approval. It's not in the plans. Next slide. This is the screening. We were asked to add additional, by the planners, we asked, good idea to add screening on the left for Mr. Leonis. We did that. We have the screening that was kind of, they said it was very appropriate, that laurel for screening these buildings 4 and 5. Then I went so far as to actually offer him money to plant 3 additional 24-inch boxes to try to screen the property, pay for it, pay for the irrigation, and let him put those where he wants. Next slide. All of this relies on an easement relocation. Well, it doesn't rely on that. We will be relocating his easement because you can see on the right, the building number 7 was originally designed to not be on the easement. We didn't have any structures on the easement in the first proposal. In order to make these changes, we want to move the buildings over, and there's a small corner over this easement. This pink easement is no longer going to be in use at all. It will be completely abandoned. We've met with Central San, and they've asked us to, design it in a, first of all, it's out of code, and we have to rehook them up to our new sewer system. Second of all, we've worked out with them where this will be under our street into our main system. So we have proposed with this new parcel E, an easement exchange, and the place where that overlaps just south of the 190 is where we will hook up their new lateral. That's happening no matter what. We're required to do that. So this pink line that now, or the purple line on the left that continues down, will be an abandoned easement. It serves them no purpose, and it serves us no purpose, except we can't put anything on it. And we hadn't until we proposed these changes. I proposed these changes in collaboration with the neighbors, and I have in writing that they agreed to do the easement exchange, and only now I'm getting some backpedaling and another letter of opposition from one of the neighbors. So we can talk about a backup hybrid plan that might help us get through this obstacle. Next slide. So the hybrid plan would be looking at basically putting things back. The thing is like, I want to do these gifts. I want to make this better, but if he doesn't let me put something on the easement, it's sort of, I've always explained that it's kind of a package deal, because all of this is very expensive. We've made a great effort and spent a lot of money on legal fees, writing up a cooperation agreement, and less and less responsive, and not able to get these things kind of signed for us to show up here today and say, this is what we get to do for them. So I think the workaround would be some sort of a hybrid plan where we literally go back to the first plan for 4 through 7. The only other adjustment would be we have to move 16 over about 4 to 5 feet, and we lose the 1 parking space for that. So I'll let them talk a little bit more about how that would be handled, but I'm still hopeful that we can work it out, and we have a little bit of time, but I don't think I'm obliged to delay the project in order for them to sign off an easement that has no purpose for them. So that's kind of where we are. Next slide, please. To end on something beautiful, I'm super excited about this project. I think it's going to be a really nice addition to Lafayette. I believe that it's really fitting that missing middle. We have these small houses. Not everybody needs, 3,000 square feet on a half an acre. I think there's going to be lines of people wanting to live in this community with this beautiful park and all these shared amenities. So thank you.
No. Yeah, so questions for the applicant?
Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Great. One question that came up for me that I don't remember us talking about last time was just an explanation on the rear yards. I mean, it makes sense that it's a rear yard, but I was looking at some of the spaces between and sort of wondering what was going on there. Like, for example, there's an area between 14 and 13 where it sort of looks like there's a fenced-off area, like where does that belong? And then there's a corridor between like 9 and 10 where it looks like doors sort of open up from each unit onto the same space.
Right. So we actually have in the original, in the package, might not have been delivered to you this time, but we have a garbage plan pickup. And so those doors go out to their garbage side yard. So that's a shared easement for those 2 units. So that's that particular case. So a lot of this has to do with garbage, where do they go with their dog, and where do they put their car? And every house has a very, I made sure that every house has a little garden that they can call their own. So it's a 12 by 12 or 12 by 14 hardscape patio where they can have outdoor entertaining. So even though like the big yard is something they share, I felt that every house. So that's what you're seeing in between those, is they're sort of like alternating patios. And yeah, does that answer?
So, yeah, so the units like 12 through 15, they have a side patio and a rear space.
Yes, yes, they do have a small, like that would be considered their kind of back setback. It's between 10 and 15 feet.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that area is not all paved? Like
No, 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 just the little 12 by 12 units is a paved patio. The rest would just be left left natural for them to landscape how they wish.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
To get back to the questions I asked earlier, can you please explain the rationale behind the 6-foot fence waiver?
Yes.
And how high-
That was a particular request from Mr. Cripps, who actually asked me to not only, we got the story poles approved, or story pole plan approved, and then when I went to talk to him, he asked me to also put up the story poles for our little retaining wall, which is about 3 feet along that property line, and then an additional 6-foot a good neighbor fence, which we will be building for him and would give him more privacy.
No problem at all with that. Second, do you have or will you be getting a geotechnical report?
It's already in the file,
Okay,
and absolutely, yeah.
perfect, thanks. And then last one, I know this is kind of like a picky little comment that you and I had fought, most people wouldn't follow. Is it a true 3-story or is it a 2-story with a basement?
It's a true 2-story with an attic.
Okay. What I was referring to is the ADUs that tuck under. From your elevations, they look like they could be basements instead of, because they look like they're more than half underground. But it depends what you do with the side grade.
Maybe in the site plan, you can see there is through 8 through 10 and 12 through 15, there is a large retaining wall. We've basically terraced these houses right through the middle of them. So you walk down your stairs, you get to your first level, but there's no first level on the uphill side. So we've truly just tucked the buildings up against the slope.
Okay, thank you.
If that helps, yeah.
Thanks for your presentation. So I'm trying to understand implications on the easement, the parcel E. And so if I heard you correctly, you haven't got agreement for the new easement plan. Is that what I heard? In other words, and the reason I'm asking is because you're saying if you don't get agreement, then you might have to shift the house over and lose a parking space. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes. We probably need to discuss so we've gone to all the trouble to make these, I'm going to say nice changes for the neighbor. I have in writing and an email that he agreed to allow me to put something on the easement, and we moved forward in good faith. Now he's saying he doesn't want to do that or may not be ready to do it. So we need to have probably a way forward where we go back to the original plan for those units. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And so for staff, so I'm trying to understand how we pass a resolution. I'm seeing the section 8 of the conditions, I guess. Yeah, are you accounting for this, that if we go forward with this, but this issue hasn't been completely resolved, how are we supposed to deal with that?
Yes, thank you for the question. So when the staff report was prepared, this issue had not been brought to staff's attention. So if the commission decides that they want to allow for a hybrid design or a solution in case that an agreement cannot be reached regarding the sewer easement, what staff would recommend is that the motion include a new condition of approval that says something along the lines, if the sewer easement cannot be relocated, the floor plans or the building footprints from March 17 for units 4 through 7 be approved, and that unit 16 be moved east 5 feet with the recognition that that unit would lose that parking space, that open parking space. So that can be done through a motion to add a condition of approval.
And then this will go to the Design Review Commission after our body, assuming it goes forward. They would not consider the sewer easement issue at all, but could that then also be addressed at the City Council meeting?
Yes, that's correct. So the Design Review Commission will be looking just at architecture and landscaping, so they would not be making a decision on the sewer easement, but the issue could be resolved by the time that the project goes to City Council.
Can I ask a follow-up on that? So in the hybrid solution, just so we're really clear, would the height of building 4 and the flip-flop of 5 and 6, or I don't remember if it was only 5 or 5 and 6, one shifted and one flip-flopped, all of that would revert back to what we saw in March?
You can put back the slide.
And maybe it's for the applicant. I just want to make sure that we understand what it means. And I would hope that for an easement that doesn't apply anymore, that this could be solved, because I feel like the flip side is worse for many multiple neighbors versus an easement that does nothing.
Exactly. I can still, maybe the slide with the purple. Keep toward the end. It's the one right before the last renderings. This one. So on the left, I have the modified site plan was what we presented tonight in good faith, trying to do the right thing by the neighbors. The hybrid site plan is what we would have to do in order to keep that abandoned easement empty. Modified design reverts back to originally published site plan as it relates to this location and massing of units 4. I'm not inclined to spend a lot of money doing the whole, stick frame and dropping of the pitch on that if, this, it sort of feels like, like this agreement we had is off at that point. The thing that we can do is continue to, remove the window change, we'll eliminate the window, and we will continue the screening around as was suggested. So it will just be a little less of an improvement. And I do think it's not as great for Leonis, but I have also not been able to get a hold of him, so.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Question, do I have a problem here because I wasn't at that March 17th meeting, so I don't feel comfortable addressing it, and if I don't vote or abstain, do we have a quorum?
Yes, you have a quorum. If you understand the proposal, it's not necessary that you were present at the earlier meeting.
Thank you.
Sorry, just to triple confirm, the biggest thing, I think the largest improvement was on, I believe, Unit 4, where you kind of did the one-off design for the slope of the house. And so if somehow the easement situation can't be resolved and we go back to this hybrid site plan, that would change, would also revert, you'd go back to the normal.
Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely seems worse.
I'm really hopeful that it will work out, but I can't be, it's like a pickle,
Yeah, I just for whatever it's worth, I want to offer, in my admittedly quite limited experience, this seems that you've taken an extraordinary steps to reach out to the community. I would encourage other developers that may be watching a recording of this to do so the same. It's fantastic to at the very least interact with them, so thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you for the public walkway. I know that was a big thing for me, so
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah, I think it's a better project, so thank you.
Anyone else? Public comment?
We have multiple public speakers in the room. The first is Jim Bava, followed by Dan Leavos, the owner. Dan, you're welcome to queue behind Mr. Bava.
Thank you. We've had several meetings with the applicant, and just to address one of her points of not responding to the easement thing, I fortunately met her at the post office as I was trying to mail a letter, and that was on the 14th of this month, and I just handed this document to sign for a release of a bunch of stuff, and there hasn't been sufficient time for me to contact my attorney to view the document, and so that's where that lies. And it probably will be okay. Probably, as long as it doesn't affect my property on my vacant lot property. Anyway, I realize this project is going to be approved, and local zoning's been overshadowed by the state. So much for local control, I guess. Anyway, the applicant has made some modifications, as she indicated, and I much appreciate the movement of the driveway, et cetera. However, there's still, the magnitude of this thing still bothers me. And I guess there's nothing that we can do about it, but, you know, you're putting 17 houses on a property that had been divided into three parcel lots and under the old rules, which would have made 3 houses, but, you know, 17. Anyway, with the 17 dwellings, it's going to cause an additional noise problem for us. I don't know where you guys live, but where we are, if a rabbit jumps out of a hole, you can hear it half a block away, in spite of the noise from Highway 7, the freeway. Also, I'm a little concerned about the illumination from the new homes that are going to be built there. I don't know what type of lighting they're going to have, how that's going to affect, if there's going to be any street lights or any type of outdoor lighting that will impact our property. And the other thing is the safety of this driveway thing. I really appreciate that very much, but where it's going to, the egress to Oak Hill Road, I don't know if you've been on Oak Hill Road or not, but it's a downhill. And if anybody goes 25 miles an hour down that road, it's probably the last person in the world that's going to be surviving, because they don't. It's always 40 miles an hour all the way down, so that entrance is going to be could be a problem. Anyway, actually the project is what it is, I guess, and it really doesn't fit in with the, you know, the 1/2 acre, 1/4 acre, one house units that are currently built there, and it just seems like a bit of an overbuild, and a fewer homes will probably have a bigger effect on her pocketbook than anything else.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Dan Lianos, and I was here at the first meeting on March 17th as well. My concerns are the conformance to the general plan, privacy. I live I live north of the house number 4, and it's gonna, when I drive up my driveway, basically it's towering over my front door and my driveway of my house. So privacy is a big concern of mine from where my home sits. Also, the density bonus law keeps being brought up, and this property does not comply with the density bonus law. I know the applicant submitted an affidavit stating that the 2 homes that were there previous, that were demolished, were completely unoccupied during the previous 5 years of her application, which is a false statement. So that needs to be addressed. So yes, that's what I have. Thank you.
The next speaker in the room is Roy Cripps, followed by Jim McKee.
Thank you for your time this evening. The last meeting I wasn't here, my wife was. We live at 1067 Oak Hill Road, so one of the most impacted with this development. My wife was at the last meeting. As I mentioned, I was in Germany. So my initial question is, you know, the development is nice, but I'm still amazed why there's so many homes so close to our properties, specifically lot 4 and 5. With a new design from Laura, and I do appreciate doing that. The retaining wall is now 7.5 feet from our fence. So there's some changes moving one way, but the impact closer to the fence is real. She mentioned about the view from the kitchen. It's actually our living room. So we'll be looking straight into the bedrooms of these new homes. And they're so close, we lose our privacy, we lose our views. Daytime light, our living conditions will change dramatically, and quite frankly, our quality of life. So it's been really stressful and a lot of anxiety around this situation. I think there could have been a better approach to have the locations instead of trying to max it out with 17 homes. Regarding the situation with the sewer line, I travel a lot with my job. We had a meeting on April the 3rd. She finally sent a document on May the 7th, legal document that she was written up by an attorney. She's then put a lot of pressure on me and Jim to sign for today's meetings, with a deadline she sent to me on Thursday and one to Jim yesterday, which is kind of not reasonable. So we need to get a lawyer to look at the document. It's a complex legal document. It's not just a piece of paper. And we need some time to look at it, because we're not signing a document that we do not understand. I'm not a real estate lawyer. I'm not a developer. I'm in aerospace. And I think the pressure to push us on this document is unrealistic. We will have an answer for her. I think it's a reasonable request, but I think the way it's been handled is really not appropriate. And then to come back today and do the changes back to the original is kind of a poor showing on my part. So, as I mentioned to her again, she called me this morning, she emailed, she wants to stop by, get the document. That's not the way to work with your neighbours. We have to look at the document. We have a lawyer now looking at it this week. If it's okay, we'll move forward. But she's had it for 6 weeks and it's written up by a lawyer. So that's really bothered me the last few weeks. Just to share that with you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker is Jim McKee, followed by Vince Gamick.
Hi, my name is Jim McKee. Thank you for the opportunity to comment here. I am a Firewise community coordinator in Happy Valley, not too far from this proposed development. I am involved in trying to connect 116 properties, get them involved in wildfire risk mitigation. I don't know a lot of these people, but I have developed an intuition here. When I go on a private road with a connected community, such as being proposed here, I find involved people because they're shared interests. When I get on a public road with a long driveway and a mansion behind it, I find no access, and I find wildfire risk unabated without any recourse as a volunteer. So with that, I'm very supportive of development like this. I should also note, I have a vested interest in this, even though I'm not a neighbor in this. I have no dog in this hunt, except as an observation of this type of a development. I have a property adjacent to me that will be likely developed with multiple homes, and I hope that it has a similar kind of a design on a private road, not a bunch of mansions that, again, I as a Firewise coordinator cannot reach. So I hope this project proceeds. As I want to comment, though, on two things as a Firewise coordinator, why I find this attractive in terms of the neighborhood's public safety and community involvement. I've appreciated two attributes of a well-designed hamlet or subset of a bigger neighborhood. This development, I believe, has both that are positive attributes. The first is that homes share that private road. As a Firewise coordinator, I've witnessed more, as I said, more community involvement in emergency preparedness. When they're sharing a private road, they are fully invested. The second attribute in this development is the number of ADUs. Otherwise known as mother-in-law units. My property in Happy Valley has a mother-in-law unit with an actual mother-in-law who doesn't drive. So she's not adding to congestion, but she is adding an extra pair of eyes and ears, and that gives us a sense of comfort. So to me, when I see ADUs, I think positive. I think these people can help with emergencies and awareness. And also on behalf of neighbors, these people, they benefit. So with that, I want to just simply support this project and not just see another mansion in lieu of it in a subsequent revision. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McKee. Nice shirt. The last speaker is Vince Gamick.
Members of the Planning Commission, my name is Vince Gamick. As he said, I own a property about a half mile away on Happy Valley Road. And I wrote to express my enthusiastic support of the project, the well-designed project, which I believe aligns with our community values and needs. The project stands out, as you can see, for its beautiful design, high-quality construction, sensitivity to Lafayette's local character. As single-family homes, the project preserves the neighborhood's aesthetic and avoids the density of condominiums or apartment buildings, and I'm particularly pleased that it respects the scenic views. We cherish and ensure the preservation of the existing memorial as well. I understand the development in Lafayette faces significant challenges, with construction costs in the Bay Area often 3 times higher than the national average. The regulatory environment can also be daunting, causing some developers to abandon projects midstream. And this project, however, demonstrates a commitment, as you've heard from Laura, to quality and compliance, making it deserving of a streamlined approval process. Moreover, the project makes thoughtful use of state housing laws, providing subsidized home for a family who might otherwise be unable to afford to live in this wonderful community that we're blessed with. The balance of the innovation and respect for the neighborhood is commendable. To the few neighbors who may oppose this development, I respectfully encourage them to consider the broader context. Housing laws under discussion in Sacramento could soon allow for denser developments, such as buildings up to 7 stories on this lot. Approving this project now ensures a thoughtfully scaled, community-friendly development rather than a less desirable alternative in the future. I respectfully urge the Commission to support this project and avoid unnecessary delays. It represents an opportunity to provide well-designed, appropriately scaled housing that enhances our community. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. That is the last speaker in the room. We have one person with a raised hand joining us online, Amanda Walter. If anyone else would like to raise their hand online, we have a second. So we'll have additional speakers. Ms. Walter, go ahead.
This is Amanda Walter. I'm a resident of Lafayette in the Happy Valley area. I wanted to, again, express my support for this plan. I think it's really important to start getting housing available to middle-class professionals and families. And I think that this is something that is much needed throughout the Bay Area, but especially in Lafayette. So I wanted to commend Laura's designs and thoughtful planning that will create a real sense of community among that neighborhood. And, you know, kind of to say, just kind of to echo what the last speaker just said, I really do think that the neighbors that are considering or frustrated by this, and I do sympathize that, you know, when you've had a open lot next to you for generations, it's hard to see development happen there. But the reality of what another developer would do, most likely on that lot, would be dramatically more dense, most likely, than what Laura's posing. With its location next to BART, it's really well suited for very high density. And the reality is we are in a housing crisis, and the state is trying to encourage as much housing as possible. So I think her plan is very thoughtful. It's a nice transition from the single family neighborhood into the downtown and more densely multifamily oriented areas. So those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Walter. The last speaker is Robert Lavoie.
Good evening, and thanks for taking these comments. I was very glad to hear that the parking was 2 per lot. I still am concerned that, as I put in my letter, that there really is no place for overflow parking for guests, for service people coming in to help the houses there, and the service vehicles. So I'd like to hear from Laura where those people would park, because there really just isn't very many places around the park. And just a thought on the neighbor that's downhill from the homes. I don't know what the distance is from his living room to the houses, but what about putting a single story unit or two in those locations rather than the 2 stories? So anyway, I know this thing's quite a ways along in the process, but it is a very dense project for this area. Thank you.
I believe that's the last speaker. If there is, the meeting technician can let us know if there's any additional ones, but that was the last raised hand before my laptop battery expired.
Excellent. All right, I believe now the applicant wishes to offer any kind of responses, rebuttal.
I think that it's important that we respond to, and maybe this is you, Stephanie, to respond to the question about housing displacement on the site, which has been cleared by evidence and my affidavit and evidence from previous owners and all kinds of ways. So that's handled. That's not a thing. There's not been a tenant there since 2017. Okay, so that's important. I think that's it. You have any other questions?
I actually had a question I forgot to ask before regarding the pathway along Oak Hill. I feel like you said it's 90% on private property, which is your property. Will the public still be able to walk on it, or?
Yeah, it's going to be, we'll have to write up a public easement.
Okay.
A public easement for that.
Just wanted to
And
make
it's
sure.
the understanding, it's my understanding that everything is going to be maintained by the HOA except for the actual asphalt walkway, which is typically maintained by the city as part of their network of pedestrian pathways.
Thanks.
And typically, the liability associated with a public pathway that the city maintains goes to the city as well, so it would not be on the HOA.
That's what I was getting at. Thank you.
And just to clarify, like, I'm very much in favor of it, obviously, but like, budget to account for the extra walkway to et cetera, like, that's all been discussed and behind, taken care of. Yeah, city maintenance sort of thing, it's just incorporated into the, is that part of like the process going forward to make sure that like that's accounted for?
The engineering department has been part of this application
okay.
review and
I
has
assume.
worked with the applicant. So yes, thank you for the question.
Thank you so much. Oh, nope.
About parking, if a resident were to have a party or an event, where would you envision the overflow parking happening?
You know, I actually met with the neighbors directly across from Oak Hill. There are 3 neighbors that live uphill, and there's no parking up there either. And I asked them that, and they said on weekends they park at BART, and otherwise they have to find street parking around downtown. Or, I mean, it's a similar situation with multifamily in downtown. I mean, it's.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. And then just back to the, I was looking at, let's see, which is this? It's sheet 1, and you have the dimensions, or the surveyor has the dimensions from the 2 northern neighbors' exterior wall to the exterior wall of your proposed units. And I don't think you mentioned that, but, you know, for example, let's see, 1067 is what, 50, is this the current plan?
Well, I mean, the houses are basically,
I mean, this
I'm not
is
sure what you're
your,
looking at.
the floor plans shown, like units 4 and 5, these are your original placements?
No, the plans you have are the proposed revisions.
Oh, everything,
Yes.
including sheet 1? Oh, okay. So to 1067, it's 50, almost 52 feet. And then for 1061, I guess the closest unit is 26 feet. And then 7 is 64 feet. So really what you were doing was trying to make adjustments to their view. And then, but the percentage of, like, the amount of actual distance that you were adjusting your structures compared to, like, the total distance wasn't that great. It's more like the views. But, and your structures are, you know, relatively close to the property line, but theirs they exceed their setback. So it's not as though you're both sort of like on the setback,
No,
which would bring you a lot closer.
yeah, we're still within the setback on both sides and further on the north side, and we're under the height limits on all those structures there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
No additional comments online? Okay. I believe we now enter a panel discussion period.
I'll start. I think this project, any project that's developing a parcel where people are used to it not being developed is hard for the public. It just is. I think this project is fantastic. I think it's right next to BART. It's right next to downtown. I like the design. I think the applicant took to heart everything that we shared comment-wise from the public and from the Planning Commission in our March meeting. And I would be ready to make a motion.
I think we discussed still.
I agree with everything that Commissioner Radich said, and I'll just add that though this site is proposed to be densely developed compared to the zoning, I think that it's filling a need in our community, and it's been so thoughtfully done that you can really envision, like, the quality of life for residents and the way that the spaces will work to create community. And I really I really appreciate that the architect or designer has gone through and met with all of the neighbors and answered all of our questions. And I'm really excited about the pathway. I think that's going to be an amenity for the whole neighborhood. So yeah, I think the project is done really well, and I think it's been made even better over this last phase, and I also would support a motion.
I like the project. I think that there's too many, for lack of a better term, McMansions in Lafayette. The one thing I cannot support is I cannot support a hybrid project. I feel that our responsibility is to prove something. If we're just too many things in there, we're kind of shirking our duty. We should have something in front of us, something to review, something to approve, or something to reject, not just, well, if this goes this way, well, they'll do this. If this goes that way, we'll do that. And so depending upon how the motion is worded, I can either support it or not support it.
I mirror a lot of the commissioner's comments. I'm very appreciative that the developer has developed alternative, has modified the plans since last time to incorporate the walkway. I'm supportive of how the ingress egress is on the neighborhood. I did like the movement of the bike locker to its new location. And I also appreciate the work that the developer's doing and trying to do with the neighbors. I know that the Crips and the Bavas have the most impact of anybody, I think, and it's difficult. I acknowledge that. I think that the screening that they're trying to do with trees and the movement of the houses with flips, I think was positive, and I'm also in favor of going forward. To follow up on Commissioner Mason, I think that maybe what we do is go with the current plan, and then if that doesn't work out, then we'd have to leave it for the city council to approve the original modified plan. That was my thought.
So I guess following is a sort of a question of parliamentary procedure. Are we able to do a conditional in the sense of like an if-then resolution that says if they're able to, within 30 days or something like that, come to an agreement on the easement, making the development, legally possible, then we approve this plan. If it's not the original plan, I guess. Are we able to do that sort of thing, or would we have to maybe rely on city council to do it?
You are able to do that. We would agree with Commissioner Mason that there needs to be discrete, understandable plans for all parties, and we believe that is the case here. You have a modified proposal, which the applicant would like to pursue. There is a fallback position if a condition, meaning the execution of the revised easement, cannot be reached. And I appreciate that you're suggesting a time frame be associated with that. It could be stipulated that prior to the issuance of building permit, which would give them up until the point of submitting for and getting a building permit, but to the speakers, give them adequate time to review the material. So for, to be a period no less than 60 days or 30 days or whatever the commission feels appropriate. So you can stipulate a minimum time frame, a maximum time frame, or a point in the path forward. And it is a very understandable, discrete project as modified, and then the hybrid in the case where the easement is not executed by the parties.
Gotcha. And so, lacking a bit of knowledge, what is, I guess there's obviously a city council meeting that could come up where it could change. But like considering timing for development and time is money, like what is, I guess, refer to the applicant, I guess, like what is the sort of longest time period you could go with to be like, okay, you have this long to get through the agreement, and if not, we're going with the original plan? It's 30 days, is building permit? Sorry, just.
Thank you.
So on the, let's see.
And I understand you've done incredible work and they're all working together and hopefully find a good solution, but just purely in a sense of time frame from where we are today, what could you accept as like, okay, if we get an agreement done by this date, we can move forward with the modified plan, but you have to have a certainty at some point.
Right.
What's that date?
That's, thank you, yes. I mean, I feel like they've had it for 13 days, 9 working days in writing. So if they were to take another 2 weeks to review the document and get it signed, I think that would work for us. And then we have the time to actually then convert it to the quitclaim actual easement. And there's timeframes within the cooperation agreement for that. So I feel like that would make us feel secure enough to move forward with the revised plan.
So 2 weeks from today is the latest you could sort of,
What's the next schedule for design review? Is that within 2 weeks?
An exact date for design review has not been determined, but it's likely a June meeting.
To add on,
mid, late?
Yes, that would be the first meeting of
Give or
DRC.
take about 3 weeks from now then?
Correct.
and to pile on then, how long after that would it be presented to the city council?
Minimum 3 to 4 weeks.
Well, I'm assuming for you, you want it as soon as possible, and they would obviously like as much time, and so trying to find a sort of the balance in the middle.
Right.
And obviously, the design review would need to know what they're reviewing, and I think so having something, either the hybrid plan or the original plan before then is something we should be able to try to provide them. Could you accept the timing of 3 weeks then, I guess, if it's second Monday in June?
Well, I would need 2 weeks in order, well, I would actually need 10 days in order to prepare the design review documents if we're, but I think 2 weeks we could make work.
Okay. All right, thank you. We'll still discuss, but appreciate coming for the additional information. So I think that is obviously a big part of what we want to think about.
I do appreciate the applicant saying 2 weeks would be ideal. I do also hear the neighbors saying, I mean, we've all probably had to hire an attorney for something. Just because we want it maybe read or, well, whatever, you're an attorney, right? Like, just because we want something read, like, the next day doesn't mean that it's gonna happen. I do think it's great to work towards the next DRC meeting. I think if there's a second one in June, that's 2 weeks later, that's also not crazy unreasonable, because then it gives 4 or so weeks for everything to get sorted out, plus time for staff to give the noticing and everything for the public. So I just think that's something we should consider, that it maybe not a strict 2 weeks, but maybe if we're gonna take this tiered approach, I'm still kind of in favor of we maybe move the motion and the resolution that we currently have, but open for discussion.
How would it work if we approve the hybrid plan? They can't get an easement by the DRC meeting. What does that put them in?
Just to clarify, you mean if the agreement can be
Sorry,
reached by the DRC?
Yes,
meeting?
correct.
I don't think it jeopardizes the project, because DRC, their main purview is going to be architecture and landscaping. They're not going to be looking so much at the site design and circulation.
But is it one of the buildings is going to be different?
Yes, yes, correct. So one of the buildings will be different. So we could present both options to DRC of what those, I think it's 2 buildings that would be different. We could provide the 2 different architecture designs for those 2 buildings. Very similarly to what we did tonight, where we kind of showed you the changes that would be proposed. And they could do a similar approach, like in the event that an agreement is not reached by a city council date, we go with Plan A or Plan B.
Okay, and then I guess the absolute drop dead date is either one, something happens with the applicant, or alternatively, the city council has to decide, and at that point, I'm assuming this is what's going to happen.
Yes, ideally, by the time the project reaches city council, we would have the ultimate design that would then be going through final map and building permit.
And if we only today, I guess we'd have to approve both then, because if we only approve the plan with the easement and they don't get it, then theoretically we haven't approved the alternative plan.
Correct. So if the commission decides not to put a condition of approval that would allow for the hybrid approach, and you approve the plans as submitted tonight, if the agreement cannot be reached and the building footprints need to be taken back to the original, that is a substantial change to what the planning commission has approved, and that the project would need to come back.
Okay.
So we trying to get lawyers not easily out of trouble.
Yeah, I'm sorry, the public comment is, I really apologize, and I understand there's going to be much discussion with you all the neighbors and the applicant. Do we have a preference for, I don't like the idea of sort of shirking our duty and handing it off to the city council to be the one that,
I was thinking, we let the applicant chime in, and she wasn't in a presentation or rebuttal.
that was sort of I was thinking it was trying to get information to help us decide.
But we asked her.
Yeah, that was
her
a
time
question
constraints.
from the commission. If the commission has a question of anyone in the audience.
Well, we
they-
should,
that
so we
can
should at
entertain.
least allow
So,
them to
Why don't
talk
you
about
ask
their
the
concern. Okay.
You have yeah.
So we're talking again, getting back to the original question. Could you come on up, or one of you come up and talk about, hey, what do you think is a reasonable time? I know you previously stated that.
Sorry, could you be extremely brief and just tell me what's the date that
1
you
minute.
would need?
So we as you mentioned, it's not easy to get an attorney, not for something like this, not retained anyway. So looks like we've got somebody, we're gonna have a call with them later this week. Just to share with you, I travel a lot. I'm going to Pittsburgh tomorrow. I'm going to France in a few weeks. So I think we could get this wrapped up, because we want to do with Laura in 3 weeks or less.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think from staff's perspective, the two options are clear and known. There's the preferred by the developer, the applicant, the project proponent, which is the revised plan, which was presented tonight. Understanding that that involves cooperation outside of their control, there's a fallback position. And if the commission can support both of those, that is clear direction for the council to consider, and they can make an ultimate decision at the time they act.
Okay, yeah, and I think we're all, well, I mean, just like we approve of both plans. It's really a question of the applicant and their neighbors.
Could we word it this way? We can approve both plans, but that when they present to the design review, they have to present one plan.
It doesn't sound like timing wise that would
But
maybe.
if we skip the June meeting, so you said 3 weeks for it, so we skip the first June meeting, we have the second June meeting.
Oh, I see.
See, at some point, somebody needs to make a decision. And what I'm saying is, instead of creating an artificial timeline, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, we just say, when they present to the Design Review Commission, they have to pick a plan, because it could be that, hey, we're close, and if we skip a meeting and we get it right the next time, that's better than trying to force a decision that we're just because we miss a deadline by 2 days or something like that. Is that clear?
What, do you have an issue with what staff was saying, with they can just?
If we approve both plans.
We approve both,
Well,
they review
We approve
both?
both plans, but the applicant has to settle on a plan prior to presenting to the Design Review Commission. And whether it's 2 weeks, 4 weeks, or whatever, hopefully it would be sooner.
I think staff was saying that the Design Review Commission could review both.
Yeah, because it is just the
What you
two.
were saying.
I know, but my thing is, at some point, somebody has to make a decision.
Yeah, and we would recommend that that be the council, and then if the applicant wants to choose a singular design to go with at a given point in time, we leave that to the developer. But, the ultimate decision would be the council.
Yeah, I think in the balance of the harms, I mean, I think outside of us having to punt to city council and being like, sorry, we couldn't give just one. But in this case, it's to acquiesce to neighbors, acquiesce to the developer. Both plans are good, as far as I can tell. We generally agree on that. And that city council, by the time that comes around, it will certainly have been decided by then, by judging by the timeframes, we're kind of up in the air. And then so we approve both, my understanding, we approve both tonight. If it's decided by DRC or not, they do theirs, they can approve, I assume, both as well. And then by the time comes to city council, applicant will have decided and, okay, it's not going to be feasible to get the easement, or it is, we've got it, we're going to go forward.
Yes, and procedurally, if there are 5 sitting commissioners this evening, a majority is 3 votes.
And the last question, is there any way, just to sort of like lock in, if they do get if the residents do sign the easement, that going forward at that point, the approved plan is for the one that was presented tonight?
That can be part of your motion, yes.
Okay, I just want to cover that, because that way it's like, just to cover their worry if maybe they sign in and then shoot back, not that they would, obviously, but,
So
okay.
a question to staff, for a motion, then would we still include the words conditional approval for the hybrid approach?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, does anybody want to,
yeah, let me pull it up.
yeah. Let's go.
My
Yeah,
computer.
I think we all have the intent of what's going to happen, just to clarify, which is that the plan as presented this evening will be approved. The plan that was originally presented back in March is also approved. And that if by the time, if an easement is granted by the residents and it's secured, that going from that point forward, the only approval will be for the plan as presented tonight with the modified, et cetera.
Can I modify that? I don't think that we're in agreement to approve the previous plan, just like the building placements, because we all like the new driveway.
So
Yeah.
I think that's what I was
Can I
saying.
make a motion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because you were just explaining, right?
Yeah,
That
that
the
was just
motion?
a set of.
Okay, I'm going to take a stab.
Yep.
I'm going to look to staff to make sure it's covering what we've all been saying. Okay, hold on. I move that we adopt Resolution 2025-04 with a conditional approval for the hybrid approach, finding the project exempt from CEQA, and that we refer the project to DRC, and that city council for recommending approval.
We only heard reference to the hybrid. Is the commission and the motion also including the revised as presented tonight? So the revised tonight and then the fallback position of the hybrid.
Oh, yeah, I apologize. I assumed the resolution 2025-04 was for what we heard tonight as the preferred project,
Thank you.
with a conditional approval for hybrid approach.
Yes.
Seconded. I can even do that, but,
I'll second.
okay. All right, all in favor? I'm sorry.
Aye.
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 All right, all opposed, say nay. Hearing none.
5-0. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. Yep. On to the next item.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So the next item on the agenda, public hearing for subdivision.
I will ask my colleague
we
in
need-
the
yeah,
booth to put Anna Toll, who's in attendant, on screen for a brief presentation. This is a reapproval of a previous entitlement that lapsed, and so it is now back before you to reconsider, I believe, the exact same project to re-entitle it so they can move forward. So, yep.
Good evening, commissioners. Thank you for your time and careful, thoughtful attention to the projects presented tonight. I'm going to share my screen as soon as I am able or enabled by the tech. Thank you. My name is Anna Toll. I'm an assistant planner with the planning department. I'll be presenting on MS 50325 for a minor subdivision at 1000 Howard Hills Road. The background on this project, as Greg mentioned, it has previously been approved. In December 2022, it was approved by the Planning Commission under a application number MS 50221 for the same configuration of a 3-lot subdivision. In December 2024, the tentative parcel map approval expired before the final map was recorded. Therefore, the applicant had to resubmit the proposal for a new approval that was received by the Planning Department in March 2025 with no changes to the tentative map. The site is developed with a single-family residence and tennis courts, or former tennis courts. The lot is mostly flat, and the location of the tennis courts and open space makes for a flat building pad for future development, especially of parcel B, but also for both new parcels being created. Many mature trees offer a buffer between existing residents and 1000 Pine Lane, and that is to the west, and many trees along the south and east property line as well. There are sparse trees in the southwest portion of the lot, which is the flagpole, you could say, portion, which will allow access to parcel B from Pine Lane with the removal of only a few trees. And this makes access to the site easier than having all 3 parcels access via Howard Hills Road. It gives the option for parcel B to access from Pine Lane. The applicant proposes to subdivide the existing lot into 3 parcels. Parcel A of 20,000 square feet, and this is the existing developed single-family residence. Parcel B in the middle with approximately 37,200 square feet in area, and parcel C to the east is proposed to have 21,600 square foot area. The applicant proposes on-site stormwater treatment via bioretention basins on parcels B and C, as well as utility and storm drain easements across the parcels as necessary for the services that will be needed. The future residential development of the 2 newly created lots, in addition to the one that's already developed, that is, will be subject to design review approval. At this time, the applicant is not proposing residential development on parcel B or C. So parcel B, as I mentioned, proposes access off of Pine Lane by a 16-foot wide access drive. This is found to meet the fire district standards for emergency access. And parcel C proposes a potential future single-family residence as well, accessed via a driveway off of Howard Hills Road. It appears this driveway is proposed to be 15 feet wide. That may have to be modified for fire district standards. So the conditions of approval do require that the final map and any future development plans shall be reviewed by the fire district for emergency access. Future development of both parcel and C, as I mentioned, will be subject to design review approval. It would require the removal of multiple trees and grading as well. Both will be subject to tree permits and grading permits as appropriate at the time the development is proposed. The proposed building pads shown in this image do demonstrate that a variance is not necessary for future development, that each parcel results in a building pad area that is flat enough and located in the center of each parcel to not require any variance to the standard R20 setbacks. Comments from all referral agencies that are listed here were received by the Planning Department and have been incorporated into the project conditions of approval to ensure compliance. The exception to this is a Confire listed here. I will get to that in a moment. Overall, the applicant will be responsible for obtaining review and approval of appropriate permits from each applicable agency. Staff did receive comments from Confire after publication of the staff report, so after the draft conditions of approval had been published. Therefore, the conditions of approval related to fire in the proposed document include standard language, and staff are recommending updated language on the following slide to update condition F5. To note, no public comment has been received to date. Staff recommends the following update to condition F5 in fire conditions. The condition relates to access widths and minimum dimensions required by the fire district. So to clarify from the existing condition that was proposed, staff recommends incorporating the following language to provide the emergency access roadways of 20-foot width or 16 for when it's serving only 1 or 2 residences, and at least 13.5 feet of vertical clearance to each building or within 150 feet of each building. Roadways must have the capacity to support 37 tons of emergency apparatus. The access roadways that are less than 28 feet in width shall have no parking on both sides of the roadway, and access roadways that are between 28 and 36 feet wide can allow parking on one side, with the other side clearly marked no parking for fire lane. And then finally, the project will require the installation of an approved fire district turnaround. Ultimately, as I mentioned, the applicant will be responsible for getting any applicable permits and approval from the fire district, as well as Central SAN, EB Mud, et cetera. And any specifics that are not captured in this condition of approval may still be required by the fire district. However, I wanted to ensure that this specific language was incorporated from the fire district's comment. The project is exempt from environmental review under CEQA section 15315 for minor divisions of land subdividing a property into 4 or fewer parcels. And staff recommendation is to find the project exempt from CEQA and adopt resolution 2025-05, approving the project subject to conditions, including the amended condition F5 as read into the record by staff. And that completes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
I have a question, Anna. Thank you for your presentation. When you were giving the presentation, you said that the 3 parcels wouldn't need a variance in order to, in theory, create, that slide thing. So parcels B and C could construct homes within the required setbacks. Now, having received the fire district comment to have the, the turnaround, would that be able to be accomplished without a variance? Or is that too far ahead from today?
I think the only one that we'd really be looking at for that would be parcel B, because it has such a long it has such a long driveway that turnaround would be necessary. It's likely the applicant could incorporate a hammerhead design into the driveway closer to the residence. But I would ultimately leave that up to the applicant and the fire department or fire district to make sure that the site layout is compliant, with their needs and their standards. If the building pads were to change slightly from what's proposed here, we would still want to see future development to be compliant with the standard setbacks and not require a variance as they demonstrate that there's adequate space to, develop these lots without needing to encroach into any of the newly created setbacks.
Okay, thank you.
I was sort of going to ask the same question, and I guess what you're saying is they could still build, depending on how they work out the turnaround, they could still build a house of approximately the size shown in this map and work something out. I guess my concern is that we've had other sort of unique lots in Lafayette that that the city, where the owner is, allowed their right to develop, and some in those properties or those proposals, haven't necessarily met all of like the general plan or zoning. And in case of fire, are there ever instances where like there's a really strangely shaped lot and the fire department makes adjustments to their requirements? Or like if there was maybe it's just hypothetical, if there was a situation where you couldn't fit, a reasonably sized house on there and a turnaround, then what would happen?
I believe the process is referred to as alternate methods and materials, or alternate means and materials, where on a case-by-case basis, it's unusual, but the fire district can place other requirements, sometimes less convenient than simply adding the turnaround. So it does make it a little bit more difficult. But for some of those lots where it is really infeasible to come to the 150-foot access requirement, for example, I believe the fire district has a process for that. The applicant would be responsible for, applying for that separately with the fire district and then working it out with them.
Got it. Thank you.
Do we have an applicant / public comment?
I believe the applicant was intending to join via Zoom. I can't see the guest list. I'm not sure if he's here.
Can anyone see?
Let me see. Oh, I can see the guest list. I'm sorry. Yes, Ben Zarin and Mr. Gambari are both in the attendees tonight, if they can be allowed to speak.
Can we ask if they have a presentation that they'd like to make, they can raise their hand or come on screen?
Yes, Mr. Zarin's hand is raised. I believe he would like to speak.
Hi, can you guys hear me? Yes. Is there a way to turn on my camera also, or no?
I don't believe so.
Okay. All right, no problem. The presentation is going to be similar, so it's okay, the screen that you have, no problem. Thank you very much, Anna, for your presentation. And also, Director of Planning, Greg Wolf, I appreciate your support and assistance as well. To the rest of the members attending, thank you for your time tonight. And as Anna mentioned, the project was previously approved, and we worked with the engineering, met all the conditions, and right as they were about to wrap everything up, we realized that oversight on our part, the fees needed to be paid prior, and we needed to make sure that we get the final map recorded prior to the expiration. And unfortunately, we found this out after it was past the 60 days for extension, so it required a resubmission. Everything has remained the same, nothing has been changed, and we are very clear with regards to the condition with the fire department. We have done a number of development in the La Morinda area, primarily in Orinda. I'm resident in Orinda and currently developing a commercial property downtown Orinda, as well as 12 custom homes I've built in Wild Earth where I reside. We have been in full compliance with the fire department and all of the utilities and all of the planning, building department with all of our projects. And we will work with them in making sure that whatever the requirements are, we will be in compliance with that as well. So apologies for our oversight, and we just ask that the project be approved so we can proceed with getting the final map recorded and moving on to the design. And with that, I will turn it over and happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I don't believe we have any questions, and I no public
Actually,
comment.
if it's possible, if there is an option for me to share my screen, I would like to share what we have currently done in Howard Hill. Just a couple seconds I can show.
I am not sure if we have the, okay,
Can you guys see my screen?
I'm assuming so.
Okay, this is the property. We purchased this property back in 2000, and this is just a couple of pictures of what the property looked like at the time that well, this is when we started the demolition. The property was just not taken care of, built originally in 1976, and I don't think anything was ever done to the property. There's a private road, Howard Hill. They weren't even also contributing towards the maintenance of the road, which I understand the neighbors were unhappy. This is, we work with the city of Lafayette, went through the whole process, expanded the house, and pretty much rebuilt the resident that was there. And these are just some of the photos. But overall, this just shows a sample of our work and just our intent. And we try really hard to make sure that whatever that we propose is very consistent with the neighborhood and improves the value of the homes in the neighborhood. That's it. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. And seeing no public comment.
There are no public comments in the room. I'll rely on my colleagues with access to the Zoom to indicate whether there's any online speakers.
There is no members of the public in the audience, only a member of the applicant team.
All right. I'd like to make a motion to find the project exempt from SEQA and adopt PC Resolution 2025-5, approving the project subject to the conditions, including the reading in, I believe, of F5 with the fire language.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Hearing none.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anna.
I believe now any commissioner reports? Yep, I didn't, okay, let's see. So, any ARC volunteers for May 30th? I sadly have to be at a funeral.
I'm looking at my calendar. I'm happy to do it if I'm in town.
If Commissioner DeGiorgio is unable, we will solicit another commissioner by email.
Those lazy bums.
We'll note Commissioner DeGiorgio. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna go there. Planning director report, I don't think we have anything there. Motion to adjourn.
One.
Oh, sorry, do we have a planning director's report? I thought.
Yeah, one item of note, that annually, each commission, committee, task force has a brief meeting presentation with the city council. It turns out design review and planning commission is next Monday. So we're working on putting together a brief slide deck based on last year's and the year prior. So you're invited back into this room a week from tonight, 7 p.m. Normally it's an off week for you.
Are you saying May 26th?
Yeah, May 26th.
I'm sorry, the 27th. It's a Tuesday meeting because of the Monday holiday.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Yes, and
That'd
the
be
prompt.
staff presenting to the city council then?
Usually it's the commissioners, but we can work with the chair.
Okay.
So your presence is invited.
I should be able to make next Tuesday work.
Yeah. If you need to be excused, that's totally fine. It is just an opportunity to touch base and confirm that any course correction or priorities that they'd like to set for the year coming.
Excellent. Yeah, I'll definitely be in attendance.
You don't need a quorum for that, right? From planning commission?
No, we don't.
I will not be present.
Okay. I'll ask our admin to get a count, an indication of who can and cannot attend. So Commissioner Radnich will not be able to attend, but the remaining 4 this evening believe they probably.
For Tuesday as well? Yeah.
Checking in with HQ.
Attendance are conditioned upon. Attendance subject to approval by third party.
Very good. That's all I had.
Okay. Anything else?
Thank you.
I should-
Very good question. Something? Oh, okay. All right. Motion to adjourn.
So moved. All right.
I saw it there the whole time.